Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is the apostate prophet.
Ya Muslim!
How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's having a fantastic day. Today, with a slight delay, which normally never happens, we'll make sure that we will never again be delayed. David, what's up? How you doing, man?
Hey, what's up? We're live. Hey,
What?
so we're going through
We are?
Wes Huff's stuff that he said about Islam on the PBD podcast.
Yes, that's what we do.
Can I describe those claims as Islamophobic?
You could. I was going to title this a very Islamophobic Wes Huff goes after Islam or something like that. Still thinking about it.
Let's see. About Islam on the PBD podcast. Okay, so I said we're live going through Wes Huff's Islamophobic claims about Islam on the PBD podcast. You're saying that is an accurate description, right? Because I'm not seeing. Okay,
that is extremely accurate. Yeah.
Okay. All right, we got that. All right.
Yeah. So he was very Islamophobic. He joined the PBD podcast, and it seems like I don't know why, but it seems that from a place of jealousy, probably because he's very jealous of Islam and Muslim apologists, and Islam is like is the best thing, and he's like, oh, I wish I was as good as Islam and Muslims. So
yeah, he's jealous of all their great scholarship and stuff too.
Yeah, which is why he decided to go there and make Islamophobic remarks about Islam, which is just unacceptable.
Yeah, they have the best scholarship, they have the best sources, the best prophet, the best book, and this can make someone extremely jealous and want to say mean things.
You know it. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to look at Wes Huff's Islamophobic commentary on Islam, and we're going to correct Wes Huff's Wes Huff's Islamophobic commentary on the Islamic phobia. So, yeah, are you ready for this, David?
Ready to have my mind blown out the back of my skull.
Blown. The funny thing is, there's something really weird about Patrick Bet David. I was looking at where he talks about Patrick Bet David. Where he talks about Islam, not Patrick Bet David. And then as I'm listening to the episode, just randomly, like I have to hear it in every single place, randomly suddenly talks about Andrew Tate.
Yeah, so,
what does that have to do with
I saw you tweet about that. Isn't that weird? And it's weird because Andrew Tate obviously has fans, and talking about him can get clicks and so on. You could get the Tater Tots coming and following, and you have all these people who are concerned about Andrew Tate and so on. So it makes sense for people with big platforms to talk about him in one way or another. But it's been coming out that he does pay people to defend him, to attack his victims and so on. Like people have actually, like the most recent one I saw was I forget who was sharing it. I think Milk Bar or Murdered by Crayons was posting a discussion with Myron Gaines and some other
Ryan Dawson, I think.
Yeah, something like that. And then Ryan was saying that he always has to be up on the Tate stuff because Tate pays him for it. Pays him to be defending him and so on. So anyway, that kind of makes sense of a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Earlier today, I was
wonder who's. When people just, Andrew Tate, and what about Andrew Tate? But this Andrew Tate, it's like, okay, we know he pays some people. Are you amongst those who are being paid?
Are those people among us? So earlier, I had a little bit of time on my hand. Wanted to quickly draw Andrew Tate, and this is all I remembered of him. So I believe that this is a good representation, and I hope that I hope he likes it.
Spot on.
There's also the Matrix in the background, as you can see. The Matrix. Yeah. Powerful. Anyway, let's have a look at that. It might be that David, people have to make money somehow, So if this is like, if Patrick Bet David just gets paid whenever he talks about Andrew Tate, then you have to let him have that.
Yeah, it'd be funny if Andrew Tate's like, look, I'll give you $50,000 every time you bring me up randomly on your podcast.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the grooming gangs right now. Speaking of grooming gangs, I recently spoke to Andrew Tate.
What the difference between how many times you read the book of Quran? He's read, I think, 3 times, and the difference between the book of Quran and Christianity. He broke down his views on Mormonism, and then I asked the question. I said, so if Quran is what you say it is, why is the religion of Islam growing at the pace that it is, faster than Christian church, and why is attendance in Christian church declining? And he gave his argument it's growing in different places. I said, why is it not
he talking about?
American?
He's talking about Wesley Huff. Yeah, that's what he's talking about.
Oh, he's like describing what they talked about.
He's describing what they talked about. I guess I don't know. I guess what they talked about. So I'm looking for the Quran stuff here, and the Quran stuff comes up quite late in the discussion. Actually, it comes up after like 40 minutes or so, where Wes initially mentioned something about the Quran.
Period of time.
And that's exactly where I'm going. This is great.
Yeah. Where I investigated. And, I lived in a home where we had the Quran on the shelf. And so I pulled it off and I read it at that point in time. Now, I've read it multiple times since then. But the first time reading it through and thinking, okay, could this actually answer the ultimate questions
were you the
that I
first
had?
time you read it?
I was 16.
And at that time, how many times had you read the Bible?
Oh, at that point, I probably read the Bible about 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
So I read the Quran cover to cover. I've read it
pretty good.
multiple times since, but I also read the Bhagavad Gita. I think it was at the time it was a shorter version. It wasn't the entire Bhagavad Gita. And I read the Book of Mormon, and digging into some of these pieces of worldview literature to try to figure out, okay, I know what my parents raised me to believe, but is believing it because they raised me to it the best reason to believe it? It's not a bad reason. I don't think it is.
Yes, it's the best reason. It's the best reason. What do you think, David? Is it the best reason?
Yeah, because, I mean, who do you think's going to love you more? Your parents or some Dawa clown?
Of course, the Dawa clown. Yeah. Obviously.
Hey, you know what's funny?
Well,
I actually stole that. There was a guy, I don't even remember what his real name was. His nickname in prison was Dino, but he was a rapper, and when he got to prison, he got confronted by all the prison Dawa guys, and they showed him all this stuff, Gospel of Barnabas and all this, and he converted to Islam. And his first phone call home to his mom, he said, "Mom, you lied to me. You lied to me. You told me Islam wasn't true. You told me all this Christian stuff. You lied to me, and I got the truth here." And his mom said, "Yeah, because a bunch of prison inmates are much more likely to tell you the truth than your own mom, right?" And, I thought that was like funny, but it actually got to him because he was telling me about it. He's like, "Yeah." So then she pointed out, and I was like, "Hey, she had a good point, man." Like, in other words, maybe the point is you haven't investigated, but prior to investigation, who are you trusting most here, your mom or a bunch of inmates? Right? Anyway.
That's funny. That is funny.
Okay, so let me get into maybe some of the issues here with you. Since you read the Quran, you said 2 or 3 times at this point, right? And you read the Book of Mormon, and we'll get to that because I'm curious to know where you're going to go with that. The Quran, after you read the book the first time, what was your impression? Did you say, "Oh, wow, complete different understanding than what I thought was going to be in the Book of Quran. This is actually a great book."
He calls it Book of Quran. That's funny. I've never heard that.
At the end.
He says it like Book of Mormon, but Book of Quran.
The Book of Quran.
The Book of
so
Quran.
What did you think about the Book of Quran?
I don't know. What did you think about the Book of Quran? Well, when I first read the Book of Quran, it would be funny if Wes just rolled with it.
Book of Quran.
Book of Quran.
Well, speaking of the Book of Quran, there are some things that I want to bring up here in a little bit, but let's just continue first. So he read the Book of Quran, and then when he read the Book of Quran, what was his first impression?
It was very based.
You think that it's very based?
It is totally based.
So your expectation, your guess is that he will think, "Wow, this is an amazing book, the Book of Quran, fantastic book."
Only when I'm joking. No, I don't think that's what he's actually going to say.
Well, you can't correct yourself.
I think he's going to say, well, in Andrew Tate's terminology, I would say it's very gay. Yeah, very, very gay, like maximally gay. Probably the gayest thing I've ever read. And I don't want to be gay, so I didn't read it anymore after that.
That's what I don't like. I don't like gay books.
Never read the book.
Okay, so the Quran is interesting in that when you come to it, especially if you're a Christian and you're expecting things to be chronological, and when you open up a Bible, Genesis
Structured.
Right. Genesis says in the beginning, and that's in the beginning. And by the time you get to the end, Revelation is the end, right? The Quran is structured differently in that the biggest chapters are at the beginning and the smallest chapters are at the end. So there's 114 surahs or chapters in the Quran. And the way that it's been put together and structured is very, very different than something like the Bible, in that it's not in a narrative theme or a chronological theme, but it's on the basis of the chapters. And there are various reasons for that in terms of the overall way.
I find it so funny that Wes is obviously very, very, very polite, even when he talks about something that he clearly doesn't agree much with, whereas some other people are not quite as polite. Some other people might describe these things quite differently, such as this here, as we can see on here. Some other people might describe things differently. Here is Muslims have been quoting this stuff so much that I decided to just get it myself and have a look at it, by Thomas Carlyle, his writings on how people perceive hero figures in history. So here's his writings about Muhammad.
Yeah, but by the way, that's the case with almost everyone they cherry pick and quote. They'll be like, look, this guy from the 1800s or this guy from whatever, he said something positive about Muhammad. And yeah, keep reading, sport.
So here he comes to, in this long section about Muhammad, he comes to the Quran. And he says, very curious, if one sought for discrepancies of national taste, here surely were the most eminent instance of that. We also can read the Quran. Our translation of it by Sale is known to be a very fair one. I must say, it is as toilsome reading as I ever undertook.
My reaction precisely. Very
a wearisome, confused jumble, crude, incondite, endless iterations, long-windedness, entanglement, most crude incondite, insupportable stupidity, in short. Insupportable stupidity, in short. Nothing but a sense of duty.
Wait, hang on. Would it be funny if this is like today, this would be a book review, right? Like this would be a book review on Amazon. Insupportable stupidity, in short.
Yeah, insupportable stupidity, in short. Nothing but a sense of duty could carry any European through the Quran. We read in it, as we might in the state paper office, unreadable masses of lumber that perhaps we may get some glimpse of a remarkable man. And then he goes into how we have some disadvantages, such as that the culture is different, the language is different, and so on. And of course, some things may be lost in translation. However, he then comes to his conclusion, yet with every allowance, one feels it difficult to see how any mortal ever could consider this Quran as a book written in heaven, too good for the earth, as a well-written book, or indeed as a book at all. And not a bewildered rhapsody written, so far as writing goes, as badly as almost any book ever was.
Guys, if you don't know why AP is quoting this, Muslims quote Thomas Carlyle to act like he's affirming that Muhammad is super great and he's so great, maybe he's actually a prophet, but they'll cherry pick little statements by people, and this is what you actually read if you keep reading. Wait, go back to that other part. No, go for it. That one right there. Nothing but a sense of duty. I find this interesting. Nothing but a sense of duty could carry any European through the Quran. I find that interesting because Antony Flew, one of the great 20th century critics of religion in general, but an atheist until he became some sort of loose generic theist or deist or something like that in the early 2000s and so on, before he died. But he was asked if he was ever going to, after he said he believes in God, in some extent. He was asked, did he think he would ever convert to something more specific like Christianity or Islam? And he said no. He doesn't think he's going to do that. And then he was asked, well, could you compare Christianity and Islam? Because he'd spent his life studying them. And he said, well, first you have to compare the figures, Jesus versus Muhammad, and Jesus is an amazingly charismatic figure. Everyone wants Jesus on his side. Muhammad most certainly was not. Then he said he compared the Apostle Paul and Muhammad. He said the Apostle Paul had a first-rate philosophical mind, brilliant, knew all kinds of languages and so on, could go toe-to-toe with philosophers. Muhammad is basically the opposite of that. And then he compared the books. He said the Bible, regardless of your position, is an amazing work of literature that everyone needs to understand. And he said to read the Quran is to do penance. But think about that. This is a scholar in the philosophy of religion saying to read the Quran is to do penance. For those of you who don't know, penance is when you punish yourself for your sins. You read the Quran to punish yourself for your sins. Oh no, I've done such horrible things. Let me punish myself by reading the Quran. But very similar to what Carlyle says here, nothing but a sense of duty could carry any European through the Quran. It's like you have both of these guys agree. You have to be making yourself read it to get through the pain of actually reading this horrible nonsense.
The thing, Muslims repeatedly or frequently bring us this guy and say, "Oh, look, those who actually studied Muhammad, look, they know the truth. They know that all of these accusations about Islam are just lies." Well, here is the same guy that you guys quote. He gets so brutal that he says that he cannot see how any mortal ever could consider this book a book. It's just brutal, man.
To call it a book is an insult to books everywhere.
It's rough.
That the Quran.
By the way, that they're entirely correct, right? Like I had to force myself to read the Quran, and you want to give up like by the middle of Surah 2 because it's so horrible. But I had to like make myself read it and keep reading it until I was done, and it was horrible.
That's what they do. By the way, I recently got this book. I'm not even interested, but I kind of Tony Costa recently wrote this book, and we were live with him on your channel, and he announced that he just published a new book. So I actually ordered it there. Tony Costa, shout out to Tony Costa.
You see that, everyone? No king but Christ, the collapse and bankruptcy of what?
Of the secular worldview.
You see that, everyone? Tony Costa, brand new, just came out.
Yeah, and I got it. See?
If you want to be as cool as AP, you want to be like AP, then you have to get that book right now and have that on, well, I'd say on your bookshelf, but you can have on your stack of books.
Powerful. All right.
Got codified because during Muhammad's lifetime, the Quran was oral. And actually, there was a hesitancy after Muhammad died in
You see, he said hesitancy. What can you trust? How can you trust anything he said?
Listen, Mr. Huff. You can't even pronounce a word. You don't even know basic grammar.
See?
I have to wonder.
How can you trust
you? Wiggling. You probably wouldn't even fight me in the octagon.
In 632, I believe it was. Muhammad dies. I could be wrong on the date. I'm just going off
you're
my
right.
head. Muhammad dies, and actually the Muslims who are following him have a hesitancy to write it down because Muhammad never told them to write it down. But there's this process that eventually gets put into place because Muhammad's successors in the caliphs realize that people have memorized the Quran differently. And so there is...
What does that mean? Memorize the Quran differently?
Yeah. So you had these individuals who were following Muhammad around and they were memorizing everything he was saying. And so part of this process is that people were remembering things slightly differently. And I believe it was so
I don't really understand what the point is of putting the Wikipedia page of Muhammad up there when he's talking. But
yeah, I don't either. Look, so here's Wikipedia. If anyone looks up Wikipedia on the Quran, does everyone see this? Does everyone see this? Okay, now you see the Wikipedia page.
he is getting the account pretty much right. Yeah, what would you say about the?
Yeah. Basically, it's by the time you get to Uthman, people are reciting the Quran differently. Yeah, as far as people memorizing the Quran, because you have records of writing down parts of the Quran on shoulder bones and flat stones and palm leaves and so on. Does that sound like someone who's putting together a book to be read? No. The point of writing down a verse of the Quran as Muhammad's revealing it, the point of writing it down on a stone or a palm leaf or something like that was to memorize it, to help you. It was an aid to memorization. You took it back to your home, and now you had it. If you could read, then you had it. Then you had it written down. But it's not put together into a book. It's only put together into a book during the reign of Abu Bakr, when a bunch of people who had parts of the Quran memorized died in battle, and parts were lost forever. Your average Muslim doesn't know about this because they don't tell them about this, but a bunch of the Quran was lost when the only people who had those passages, your average Muslim believes that you've got this entire Muslim community and tons of them and memorize the entire Quran. Guys, that's false. It's false according to your own sources. Why do you believe this nonsense when your lying dawah clowns make this stuff up? What your sources actually say is it was a pretty sloppy process. The only people who had certain passages memorized died in battle. They lost a bunch of the Quran. And in order to prevent more of it from being lost, that's why Abu Bakr had it made into a book. But the book wasn't made to be passed around or shared or anything. It was just, let's have a copy so that if a bunch more people die, we still at least have what was revealed and we don't lose anymore. But then after a little more time went by, during the caliphate of Uthman, then you start getting complaints that people in different parts of the Muslim empire are reciting the Quran differently. What are we going to do about this? We're going to end up fighting over who's got the right Quran here and so on. That's when Uthman orders everyone to hand over their Qurans, burns them all, and issues the new standardized version. So anyway, the point is, it's a very sloppy process. It's a complete 180 from what your average Muslim believes about how the Quran was revealed and preserved and so on.
That's true. That's what they do.
Abu Bakr, who I think is the second rightly guided caliph in succession after Muhammad.
Wrong. It's actually
first one.
How
can we trust anything this guy says? You got the year right. You got 632 right. You said you weren't sure about that. And you said you think he's the second. Wrong. He's the first. End of live stream. Turn it off.
I'm gonna stop watching here.
Shut it down. Shut it down.
We can't trust anything.
He's the person who starts the process of kind of bringing together all of these recitations of the Quran, and then that's bringing to.
I mean, to be fair, I think what he meant is the second one after Muhammad. So he was, I think, including the Muhammad. So
together all of these recitations of the Quran, and then that's finalized under a later caliph by the name of Uthman. And Uthman,
correct.
I think when they come to Abu Bakr, the statement literally that they say is, "Save us before we differ like the Christians and the Jews before us." And that they saw that there were some things that the Christians and the Jews were disagreeing on between their written texts, and they didn't want that to happen with the Quran. And so there's a period of time under Uthman where it's called the Uthmanic revision, where he gathers all of these documents together, all of these different
recension,
and he
not revision, recension, but you can call it revision because it was definitely a revision.
Uthman
codifies it into one document and he destroys all of the differing ones. So in that sense, you do have a standardized version. But
so what he explained until this point is actually quite an important and relevant issue to the Quran and its authenticity. Now, when we have the Quran today, like this one, mine would not be a good example because it's missing a lot of pages that I used to just rip up and throw away.
Well, to be fair, any Quran is missing a bunch of stuff because so much of it was lost. So you're okay.
That's true, but I wipe my nose with some of these, wipe my, my mouth and so on. So this is a bad example. But if you have a Quran like this nowadays and it contains all of those pages, then here is the thing: there is no way at all to guarantee and to verify that the entirety of the text of such a Quran is perfectly identical to the contents of so-called revelations that Muhammad dictated to his followers, and which the followers then memorized or wrote down. Because only after the time of Muhammad did they come together, after a battle that was known as the Battle of Yamama. It was the Battle of Yamama. Lots of people died in Yamama. Yamama was so big and so destructive that it killed lots of Muslims. So after lots of Muslim, memorizers and scribes died inside Yamama, the caliphs and the later Muslims decided that we need to bring all of these revelations together and need to turn it into one complete book. But the objection was, but wait a minute, Muhammad never said we should do this. So why are we doing this now? And well, the objection was, you have seen what happened what happened to Yamama. So lots of people died in Yamama, and it's time now to write everything down and to preserve it. After Yamama, we don't want to have any other disaster like Yamama be an obstacle to the preservation of Islam. So that's what happened. However, during this compilation of the Quran from the tongues and the writings of those who survived Yamama, the Quran.
No, you're laughing, man, but that's Muslims remember this as a very ugly battle.
So the compilation of the Quran was
your mom is so ugly.
but here is the thing: when they decided to come together and compile the Quran and turn it into one big book as big as Yamama, we don't know what they actually agreed upon, whether the verses and the contents that they agreed upon were actually identical to the revelations given by Muhammad. We don't know any of this. There were internal disagreements. However, the Muslims that survived Yamama decided that this is now the Quran, and that's what we are running with. In fact, there were differences, and Uthman later on came and burned the other differences and left allegedly one Quran. So that's what we're basically running with, pretty much. And we are supposed to trust that this entire book was revealed as is, word for word, by Allah through the angel to Muhammad, which was then almost lost in Yamama. And then and we are supposed to just buy all of that. I personally can't buy it. If you ask me today, can you be sure that the contents of this book are identical to what Muhammad revealed? I can't. That's the issue.
That's true. So AP sitting there smiling and giggling and joking, but this was a very, 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 very ugly day in Islam. The Battle of Yamama was such an ugly battle because parts of the Quran were lost forever. They're not in the Quran anymore because the only people who had them memorized died in battle, and the Quran had not been compiled as a book up until that point. So very, very, very ugly battle. That's why it's a saying to this day amongst Muslims, Yamama's so ugly, her shadow runs from her.
and here it is, Battle of Yamama, part of the Ridda Wars, the Wars of Apostasy. There it is. So, but this is the Battle of Yamama, and it is still to this day remembered. So that's the big thing. Yamama almost killed Islam. So yeah, big stuff.
But it's in terms of like the history of how texts are produced and disseminated, it's what's called a controlled transmission. It's essentially a government oversight of it, right? So the great thing about having only one version is that you don't have any disagreements, but if you only have one version, you have to trust that the guy who compiled that one version got it right. And there were actually companions of Muhammad within the oral or within the traditional sources of Islamic literature called the Hadith, that talk about the fact that there were particular individuals who were very close to Muhammad during his lifetime who did not want to give
Ibn
their
Masud,
Quran versions to Uthman because they knew that theirs was going to differ with Uthman's and he would probably destroy it. And so you have these are not, I mean, controversial in the sense that these are part of the traditional Islamic sources in the Hadith. But I think within the history of how the Quran gets put together.
Ooh, Wikipedia.
Oh, look at that. Uthman.
And so this is Wikipedia. I'm just going to put it up here. I'm not expecting people to actually read this. It's just my tech guy is out, and I have to kind of run things for myself, and I'm supposed to put a graphic up on the screen. I don't know what to put up, so I won't put up a picture of the Quran or anything while you're talking about the Quran. I'll just go to Wikipedia. I just wanted to expand briefly on what Wes just said. He pointed out that there were companions of Muhammad who didn't want to hand their Qurans over because they knew that those Qurans would be destroyed. What's interesting, so he's referring to Ibn Masud here. Ibn Masud ordered the people. He ordered his followers, do not hand over your Qurans. Don't hand over your Qurans to this guy. Hide them. But what's also relevant is who that was. It wasn't some random guy. Muhammad said, if you want to learn the Quran from anyone, learn it from Ibn Masud. So the guy that Muhammad said, if you want to learn the Quran from anyone, learn it from that guy. He actually rejected the Quran that Muslims use today. Had tons and tons and tons of variants. I think like 200 variants just in Surah 2 alone. But also different chapters. He didn't believe that Surah 1, Surah 113, or Surah 114 are supposed to be in the Quran. These are prayers. He said, these are us talking to Allah. The Quran is Allah talking to us. These should not be in the Quran. And so these are the kinds of disagreements they had. And yet your average Muslim believes that it was a perfectly smooth process. Muhammad delivered to his followers. His followers put it into a big book, and it was passed on. And plus, they had it all memorized. It's a great process. You read the actual Muslim sources, it's a big disaster. And the fact that so many Muslims believe what are complete lies about the Quran shows how messed up dawah is, because they get that from their dawah clowns who tell them, oh, it's this miraculous preservation and here's how it happened. And it's like no similarity to what actually happened. And what's amazing is you could tell a Muslim, you can say, look, let's actually go through your sources, what they say about how your book was actually put together and preserved and all the problems and all the passages that came up missing and so on. Let's go ahead and look at that. They won't believe a word you're saying. They'll just still believe their dawah guy, even though you're quoting their sources and the dawah guy is indisputably lying.
That's what they do. That is what they do.
But I think within the history of how the Quran gets put together, you see something very different than what you see in the Bible. And so when you're reading it, especially if what I did, open up the front and then read all the way through, there are parts of the Quran that are confusing because they don't necessarily follow what would be considered a overly rational order in terms of the flow of the text. So
this is such a polite description of what's happening in the Quran. We have said the same thing very often, and it's just that you open the book and you start reading, and it just jumps from topic to topic without any reason at all. It's just it talks about trees, then suddenly it talks about how to enter your homes from the back door, and then it talks about how Jews are messed up, and so on. It's just completely thoughtless, random garbage put together.
It's like if you took some of the Torah, a couple pages out of the Torah, and a couple pages out of the Talmud, and a couple pages out of the New Testament, and a couple pages out of some of these other apocryphal sources and so on, and a few other things, and you stuck it into a blender, let it get ripped apart, and then put it down and said, this is our book, let's read it. That's what reading the Quran is like.
Exactly.
I open it up, I read it. Some things sound familiar in some ways, and that it's talking about Moses and Noah and even, Jesus, Mary are in there. But there are components of it that they're so far from what the biblical narrative is that it just seems off. And I think there's a very
often in a sense that it's not chronological.
Yeah.
It's not
off in the sense that it's wrong,
or
off in many ways. I mean, I can tell you my own experience. I had, when I was a Muslim, read the Quran several times, and when I was a Muslim,
was your mind blown?
It was actually very, very much blown, but not by the eloquence and beauty and wonders of the Quran, but rather by what am I supposed to do with this book that I always learned and thought was the best thing ever, and here I am sitting, forcing myself to read it. It's just so freaking difficult to get through and to read it, and lots of it just does not make sense. And when you ask, it's just, oh, just ignore it, man. Just don't ask questions, bro. So the Quran itself is what gave me most of my doubts about Islam at the time. And later on, when I was first introduced to the Bible, the beginning of Genesis to me at that time didn't make much sense. But there is one thing that was clearly different, which was, here you have an actual book that has a beginning and that actually follows a proper narrative. I now understand it better as I read it more and again, but I was kind of amazed by the fact that I switched over to the Bible and suddenly I'm introduced to a completely different religious text that actually has a beginning and an end, that actually flows, that goes through things where you don't have to wonder, why are we talking about this here right now? Because it's not just a book where random weird stuff comes up all the time, like in the Quran. It's something that actually has a story. And of course, depending on what book you're reading, some books have some certain themes, other books have different themes, but you know what you're reading. With the Quran, you don't really know what you're reading. You're just reading some random ramblings that are so stupid, to put it.
And it's responses to anything anyone complains to Muhammad about or accuses Muhammad about, like interspersed with a story. So to be like, and then Abraham, blah 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 blah, and they say, Muhammad, why are you so gay? And he is not gay, but those who criticize him are gay. And Andrew Tate shall eventually save the Ummah with powerful preaching.
I'm still stuck on one thing, which was kind of surprising to me when I first read it myself, which is that the Quran literally just begins like with this whole ridiculous language. So the first chapter is just a prayer. The second chapter is the actual beginning. Alif Lam Mim. Nobody knows what this means.
No one knows what this means. It's almost like magic spells, little incantations.
When you ask what this means, nobody knows. Nobody can know nobody can presume to know what this means. Then this is the book about which there is no doubt, the guidance for those conscious of Allah who believe in the unseen and establish prayer and spend out of what we have provided for them, and who believe in what has been revealed to you and was revealed to you. Blah, 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 blah. Those are upon guidance from their Lord, and it is those who are successful. And then immediately, already. Verse 6, indeed, those who disbelieve, it is all the same for them whether you warn them or not. They will not believe. Allah has set a seal upon their hearts and upon their hearing, and over their vision is a veil, and for them is a great punishment. And of them, some say we believe in the last day, but they are not believers. They think they can deceive Allah and those who believe, but they deceive nobody except themselves. In their heart is a disease. They're sick. They're sick. They're sick.
You're sick. You're sick.
They're urinating upon one another.
No wonder you have people like Muhammad Ishaq. Like, this is how Allah talks.
Hey, go down to verse 23.
23. Yes. And if you are in doubt about what we have sent down upon our servant, then produce a surah, the like thereof, and call upon your witness other than Allah, if you shall be truthful.
Is where you have some of the Quran does this a bunch of times. It's no, it's so amazing. It's such an amazing book. It can only come from God. And the reason for citing this verse here is we've seen what non-Muslims think about the Quran. Yeah. To read the Quran is to do penance. We saw what Carlyle thought about the Quran. These are very intelligent people examining the Quran, going, this is extremely painful to read. And so if you wanted to take that into consideration with Surah 2 verse 23, the real takeaway would be, let's see you produce a book that is as painful and almost impossible to read as this book. It must be from God. Only God can produce a book that is so hard to read because it's so boring and stupid and jumps around from topic to topic so much. And one spends all of its pages whining about the Kufar.
Imagine an author who promises to give you the best book ever, then he gives you a book that just sounds absolutely ridiculous. And when you make fun of it, the author continues writing in the very same book that you're criticizing. It says, and some of them, they don't like it. They're sick. How about they write something better? Like, this is basically what the Quran is.
That's perfect. Hey, AP, we need to do a skit one day where like a book publisher and the guy comes, he's like, I've got the best book ever. Oh, well, yeah, let's see it. And hey, this sucks. And he goes back and he's on his keyboard and they say, this book sucks, but it is they who suck. And,
exactly. Man.
So, guys, anyway, the point is, guys, that's how the Quran is revealed. Muhammad comes up with a revelation. The people around him, his followers, oh, it's so great. But everyone else is like, this is the dumbest thing we've ever heard in our lives. And then he'll actually put down, and they say, this is the dumbest thing we've ever heard in our lives. But no, you are the dumbest thing Allah has ever heard. Ha ha, and you shall abide in the fire. And it just goes on and on like that.
And of course, the issue is, of course, that if you read it plain like this, it's quite obvious that it's like a bunch of weird ramblings. However, you don't read it like that. You read it like this. And some of them say this book sucks. Indeed, they are the ones who suck.
Well, when you put it like that, now it's the best book ever recited.
You see, powerful.
Well, the stories are very different a lot of the time. So, what
has to be polite with
what I think we can
I'll just say
from the historical record is basically that if you take the traditional Islamic narrative, Muhammad was illiterate. So he's not said to have been a learned individual. And so he is, if we take the traditional narrative once again, he's a caravaner in 7th century Arabia.
Caravan robber.
He is going around Arabia, in the Arabian Peninsula. You know, he's going up into countries like what are today modern day Jordan.
What is this, Rob? Is this ChatGPT you pulled up, or
no? This was just Google.
It's another dude pulling this crap up. Fire that dude, PBD.
Got it.
Yeah. So if we go by that traditional narrative, he's a caravaner. He's going around. He's being exposed to Christians and Jews because they're all over the place.
Oh, he is being exposed. All right.
Being exposed.
And in Syria and in Jordan and in Iraq, like these were Christian countries a lot of the time. And he's hearing these stories about who the Christians and the Jews believe are their prophets and individuals within that are part of the religion. But he's not able to discern between the difference between an actual historical source like, say, the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and, say, apocryphal Christian tales that are floating around the Arabian Peninsula.
This is a very
floating around like something floating in a toilet.
This is a very good and very important point. I think you will continue with this, but much of what makes up the Quran and its narratives about different things, different Quranic stories and traditions, including but not limited to stories about biblical figures, stories about Jesus, and also different stories about completely random people that have nothing to do with Abrahamic tradition, come from sources that are simply human, come from hearsay, folk tales, and all that. And Islam just adopts it. The author of the Quran just adopts it and just runs with it. At some point, people come to him and say, and ask him about Dhul-Qarnayn, which means the two-horned one. And they say, so tell us about Dhul-Qarnayn. Who is Dhul-Qarnayn? What did he do? And Muhammad goes away for a few days, and then hears some information about it, and then comes back and says, oh, Allah sent me a revelation.
Mm-hmm.
The revelation goes as follows. And they ask you about Dhul-Qarnayn. Say Dhul-Qarnayn was a servant of Allah, and we guided him, and he went to the farthest west and the farthest east, and he saw the setting place of the sun, and he saw that the sun was setting in a muddy spring, and he was a wonderful person. The whole question was about Alexander the Great. Muhammad just didn't get it.
Mm-hmm. And what you're talking about there is tying it in with what Wes is talking about. Muhammad could not tell the difference between a actual historical source and just myths and fables that are circulating during his time. Why is this relevant? Well, the stuff he cites about Alexander the Great, Dhul-Qarnayn, is not from historical sources, accurate historical sources about Alexander the Great. These are from what are called the Alexander romances.
Yeah.
They're made up, right? They're made up. It's like remember that guy Musa Sarantonio, who was the poster boy for ISIS in Australia, got locked up, then left Islam and started blasting it from prison because the guy's like he's one of these weird people who picks up languages really, really quickly. And so he started learning the relevant languages and started reading the Syriac Alexander legend and so on, and realizing this is where the Quran is getting this story from. And so he called it, he said the Quran is plagiarizing 7th century fan fiction. The Quran is plagiarizing 7th century fan fiction. So guys, what this would be like is take someone like William Wallace, right? William Wallace. There's an actual William Wallace who was a hero and so on. To the people of Scotland and so on. And there are things you can learn about William Wallace that are accurate history. Or you can watch the movie Braveheart, which contains a bunch of stuff that's just made up for the movie. So suppose someone claims to be a prophet, and you ask him, you say, hey, you're a true prophet. Tell me about William Wallace. I have a little challenge for you. Tell me about William Wallace. And he says, okay, let me disappear for 2.5 hours. And he disappears for 2.5 hours. And then he comes back and says, I have my revelation. Lo, they ask thee about William Wallace, and verily William Wallace did step out and say, they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom. And he like quotes it, but it's clear he's just quoting the movie Braveheart. That's basically what you have with Muhammad. It's not an actual movie, but even the pagans could tell the difference between this is something that's like on the level of a bedtime story, and you're quoting it as revelation. That's what it's like. That's what it's actually like.
And indeed, our servant William Wallace, he went to a place known as Braveheart. Braveheart. And there he wore these things and he said, freedom. So here's the story about Dhul-Qarnayn in chapter 18, verse 83 of the Quran. And they ask you, O Muhammad, about Dhul-Qarnayn, the two-horned one. Say, I will recite to you about him a report. Indeed, we established him upon the earth, and we gave him from everything away. So he followed away until when he reached the setting of the sun, he found it.
I.e. the west. Yeah, that's where the sun sets.
He found it.
You reached it.
Setting in a body of dark water, and he found near it a people. It's funny they add some translations.
Look at the next one too.
Seemed
to be.
He found it. Seemed to be setting. It doesn't.
Know what it says. It's he found it. Read it without the additional commentary. He found it. What the sun setting in a body of dark water. They have to add as if, because they know more than Allah.
Yeah, we said, oh, Dhul-Qarnayn, either you punish these people or else adopt of them goodness and so on. So it tells a story where Dhul-Qarnayn, who is actually Alexander the Great, according to all accounts, goes around the world and finds the place where the sun sets in a muddy spring and so on. This is what the Quran does. It's a very stupid book.
Mm-hmm. And so, because there is this inability to actually discern between those sources, some of those things get incorporated into the Quran. So, and we can trace this. A friend of mine, Andy Bannister, did his PhD dissertation, and then he published a book on this. It's called The Oral Formulaic Construction of the Quran, where we can actually tie certain stories in the Quran to apocryphal
sources hang on.
floating around.
That is the difference, right? If we wanted an exact parallel, it would be someone asks Muhammad about William Wallace. Muhammad disappears for 2.5 hours, then comes back, and it's all stuff from the movie Braveheart, but William Wallace is a Muslim too. That was the missing element. Yeah. And it would be, and as they were killing him, he said, freedom from the kuffar, and may Allah destroy them. I am a prophet, lo, and that's how it would be. And then Muhammad's followers would, oh, it's such a great revelation that will really happen, alhamdulillah.
So powerful, wow. But and the additional factor would be that later on, as it turns out, that this is that Muhammad basically just stole the story or a fictional account of William Wallace based on the movie. The believers will then start acting as if this isn't about William Wallace, it's about a different character. It has nothing to do with William Wallace. This is what they do with Dhul-Qarnayn. With Dhul-Qarnayn, it's very obvious by the early Muslim scholars, attested many times, and also looking at the story, quite obvious, this is about Alexander the Great. Ask Muslims today, and they will deny that it is about Alexander the Great, despite the fact that traditionally Islamic scholars have viewed it as clearly about Alexander the Great, because the story lines up with fables about Alexander the Great. The description lines up with Alexander the Great. But since Muslims realized, wait a minute, Alexander the Great was not at all somebody who would be described as who should be described as a Muslim.
No, be clear on that. Alexander was as pagan as you could possibly be. You cannot be more pagan. You cannot be like, oh, Alexander's a pagan, but I can be even more pagan. No. That guy was as pagan as a pagan could possibly be.
He declared himself a god.
Yeah,
so.
He's a devout Muslim, according to the Quran. In fact, even his name in the Quran, Dhul-Qarnayn, the two horns, that refers to him wearing the two horns of Amnon, of the god Ammon, and claiming to be the sun.
Yeah.
And so
he was a syncretic god who basically, in order to properly integrate the populations that he conquered, adopted their religious beliefs and made himself the god of Egypt and the god of the others and so on. So this is clearly not a Muslim guy. So when Muslims became aware of that, they started changing the story and said, "Oh no, it's not about Alexander. No, it's not about Alexander the Great. It's about some other guy. We just don't know who. We don't know who."
And here's the thing. So it's obviously about Alexander. Right. We know that. You can see the exact parallels. To say it's not talking about Alexander would be like, reading about some guy and it says, oh, and he was the first president of the United States and he was a general in the Revolutionary War and he did this and this and that and this and that. And you say, and you find out it doesn't line up with him being a prophet. And you say, oh, it's not George Washington. It's not George Washington. It's this other guy. Okay, well, who fits that description? What the problem is, one, if they're saying this refers to someone else, Dhul-Qarnayn is someone else, this is something that everyone's familiar with because people are asking Muhammad about it. Hey, Muhammad, who's this guy? What? Tell us about this. We're going to challenge you. Do you actually know what you're talking about? Tell us about Dhul-Qarnayn. This is something that people are familiar with. So if it's not Alexander, who is it? People are familiar with it in 7th century Arabia. The other thing is, too, this figure was supposedly doing all kinds of things, up to and including building this huge wall between these two mountains that's still there, that's keeping out these hordes of billions of beings held behind it. And, once you get to the end time, then this wall is finally going to break down and these billions of people. So according to this guy builds this huge giant wall between two mountains. It's still there and it's holding back all these billions of people and so on. If this isn't Alexander, these are the kinds of things Alexander does in the Alexander romances. Who is it? Who fits this description? Who built this giant wall and who went over here and who went over here and who is it? We're supposed to know who this is. The Quran said, hey, they're asking you about this. What is this? Hey, is this all me? Why don't we just take a couple of super chats here on the D Wood Show, ladies and gentlemen? Am I live? Hey, that is me. All right, guys, let's take some super chats. AP randomly disappeared. It's still working? What a little weakling. Okay, we got Top P. Who's Top P? Is that Patrick? Is that Patrick? Or is that Jordan Peterson? We don't know. Here we have Ayatollah Khamenei, who says, guys, I just ate 482 tangerines, and now Angel Jabril is chasing me around the palace trying to choke me. Help. It's supposed to be 487. Here we have PBD loves Andrew Tate almost as much as I love tangerines. Almost. What are you doing? Where'd you disappear
Well,
to?
that was kind of weird. My internet suddenly disappeared, and I dropped out, and then it came right back. I don't know. Never happens.
It's cool. It's cool that it left me on your show.
Yeah. Since I think this was a very cool show so far, it had to do something. I don't know. Maybe it was just an Allah attack.
Well, I burned through about 40 super chats while you were gone.
Oh, good. Fantastic. All right, let's continue.
In the subsequent centuries after Jesus. So there's a document called the Infancy Gospel of Thomas, not to be confused with the Gospel of Thomas, which is very different. But the Arab Infancy Gospel of Thomas has a story where Jesus, the childhood Jesus,
let's go. They put Andy
clay birds.
The oral formulaic study of the Quran. So Wes just recommended this book to understand the Quran's revelations and how things got a little bit weird. The book itself is very scholarly and kind of not normal book price, so only if you're really interested.
Beside a riverbank. And the Jewish officials get mad at him because he's doing this on the Sabbath. He's breaking the...
Oh, wait, let's hear the story again.
Yeah. The childhood Jesus is making clay birds beside a riverbank. And the Jewish officials get mad at him because he's doing this on the Sabbath. He's breaking the Sabbath. They go off to get his parents to get him into trouble. And Jesus breathes on the birds. They turn into real birds and they fly away. So this is an apocryphal story. It comes centuries after the actual historical Jesus. It has no historical ties to the historical Jesus, but it's a popular story that's being incorporated into this infancy narrative.
In the Quran.
So the Quran adopts it. So we can trace it to the Infancy Gospel of Thomas and then the later Arab Infancy Gospel of Thomas. The Quran borrows it. And
so he's telling he's telling something very important, which I think is crucial when we talk about the Quran and its credibility. So I have a print version here with me, the Infancy Gospels, which has the Infancy Gospels compiled, which are mostly just a bunch of fake writings by different heretical sects later on, which tell stories about Jesus. Some of them have some authenticity and are apocryphal and so on. You can find the texts in here. You can also, there is actually a website, gospels.net, where you can directly find the texts of these different pseudo-gospels written out. And here you can, for example, go on the Infancy Gospel of James or the Infancy Gospel of Thomas. If you go on the Infancy Gospel of Thomas, it will describe here the details about it, and it will also give you the full text of it. And as Wes just explained, there are some stories about Jesus that are found in these Gospels. You can find that right here. It's right at the beginning of the Infancy Gospel of Thomas. It says right here at the beginning, Jesus makes sparrows. In chapter 2, the child Jesus was 5 years old. After it rained, he was playing at the ford of a flowing stream, and stirring up the dirty waters, he gathered them into pools, and he made them clean and excellent, ordering them by word alone, and not ordering them by a deed. Then, having taken soft clay from the mud, he formed 12 sparrows from it. But it was the Sabbath when he did these things, and many children were with him. But a certain Jew saw the child Jesus with the other children doing these things. He went to Joseph his father and slandered the child Jesus, saying that he made clay on the Sabbath, which isn't permissible, and formed 12 sparrows. And Joseph went and rebuked him, saying, "Why are you doing these things on the Sabbath?" But Jesus clapped his hands, ordering the birds with a shout in front of all,
clap your hands,
and said, "Go take flight like living beings." And the sparrows taking flight went away squawking. And having seen this, the Pharisee was amazed, and he reported it to all his friends. This is a clearly fake story.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. It's a fake story. It's from much later. The point of the story is that Jesus is God, right? And he's giving people signs that he's God. And this sign is meant to show, look, he creates the same way God creates. How does God create Adam? He fashions him and then breathes into him, and then he comes alive. And Jesus says, hey, watch me do that. Watch me do that. I'll make some birds and breathe into them, and then they take off flying.
Powerful, powerful. So this is clearly a fake story about Jesus made up later to embellish Jesus significantly during his lifetime and make it look like he was always showing signs of divinity and godhood and all that, even when he was a little child. That is not the Christian account. Mm-hmm. That's not how Jesus is meant to be in the Christian account. But these later sects with Gnostic or other influences depicted Jesus as this.
Well, there was also a reason people later Christians became obsessed with what are called like the missing years of Jesus. So he's born, and then you get a couple glimpses of him, like there's him in the temple and stuff like that when he's a teenager and so on. But then it's just, okay, now he's around 30. Now his public ministry is going on and so on. So people are like, what happened before then? It's like, he was probably working as a carpenter in his dad's carpentry shop. That's what he's doing. You don't need a lot of stories about that. But there was then later generation. You could basically just make up a story at some point and say, here's what Jesus was doing when he was a child and so on. People would get really interested. It would be really entertaining.
Now, here comes the problem. These texts are going around in the Middle East and parts of the Christian world among heretical sects. Christian teachers and authorities and scholars reject these as just fake hearsay and so on. Like, hey, cool story, bro, but that's not part of our teaching, so get out of here. But then the Quran comes along. The author of the Quran comes along in the 7th century, hears these stories as well, doesn't know what is right and what is wrong, doesn't know what is authentic and what is made up, and starts adopting these stories. And suddenly, we go to the Quran, chapter 3, verse 49, and what do we read? About Jesus, and make him a messenger to the children of Israel, who will say, indeed, I have come to you with a sign from your Lord, in that I design for you from clay, like the form of a bird. Then I breathe into it, and it becomes a bird by permission of Allah.
There you have it. So, yes, of course, Jesus is creating the same way God creates, but he's doing that by permission of Allah. So he's a devout Muslim, and that's what Jesus was actually saying when he's a kid. He's I do it by permission of Allah. And why this is weird, guys, is so a Muslim will say, you see, he's not creating like God because he's just doing it by the permission of Allah. Why is Allah giving Jesus permission to create life the same way Allah creates, knowing that people would interpret this as evidence that he is God? In other words, why is Allah having Jesus do things that people are going to interpret as proof that he's God? Why? What's the point of that? What does he need to do that for? You could give Jesus all kinds of miracles. Why have him create the exact same way that God creates, according to the Quran?
And you can also see that the author of the Quran itself sees the problem with these narratives, but then still doesn't get it and adds these things, adds by permission of Allah. You have two cases here. Instance one is, I form clay birds, and then I breathe life into it. So Jesus breathes life into clay birds that he just made. But wait a minute, who is the only one who can breathe life into inanimate beings? Allah, not Jesus. Well, therefore we will just add by the permission of Allah. And then you have the second instance here, and I give life to the dead. And then it goes, well, only Allah can do that. Well, okay, by the permission of Allah. So the author of the Quran here is aware that this is really problematic and adds by the permission of Allah to it, instead of just leaving this out, because these are not authentic stories. But the Quran contradicts itself all the time and adopts stories that don't make sense, which is why the Quran also adopted, for example, something like the virgin birth of Jesus, that Jesus was born of a virgin without a father, without a human father, However, the Quran also strictly and strongly says, no, Jesus was not the Son of God. Jesus was not divine. How dare you say that? How dare you say something so outrageous? You're sick. You're sick.
You're sick. You're sick.
But why does it adopt the story of the virgin birth?
Yeah, so guys, AP's pointing out that Muhammad's adopting stories that it makes no sense from an Islamic perspective to adopt, and he thinks he can just put a Band-Aid on it by saying, by permission of Allah, and then everything is better. So this would be like this, especially this here, where Jesus creates life the exact same way Allah creates life, fashions it out of clay, then breathes into it, and then it comes to life. And, oh, I can fix that, but just by saying, by permission of Allah. This would be like saying, like Muhammad hears a story about Jesus creating the entire universe, and Jesus created the universe. And he'd be like, yes, he did create the universe by permission of Allah. It's like, wait, you can't just do that, man. Talk about creating the universe, that gives rise to some serious questions. Just like creating life the exact same way God creates would give rise to certain questions, and you don't just fix it by saying, oh, yeah, by the permission of Allah. Allah wanted him to confuse everyone and make them think he's God.
And he died for our sins by the permission of Allah.
Yeah. And the Trinity is true by the permission of Allah.
And incorporates it, but we know that it's not an actual historical story of Jesus. So when I say that there were stories that like they're familiar.
What's your point with that? What's your point with that?
That there are stories that are familiar in that you're seeing the name Jesus, you're seeing the name John the Baptist, you're seeing the name Mary. But
this is not the right Gospel of Thomas.
In fact, he even said that. He said it's different from the Gospel of Thomas. It says the infancy Gospel of Thomas, which is different from the Gospel of Thomas.
Whoever is pulling up these things, what's his name again? Really needs to listen better. There are two different Gospels of Thomas. One is the infancy Gospel of Thomas. The other is the Gospel of Thomas. The Gospel of Thomas is assumed to be a Gnostic text in the Nag Hammadi Codex. The other is the infancy Gospel of Thomas. These are different texts.
But when you're reading these stories about them in the Quran, they're not stories that they're not echoing biblical stories as much as they're talking about these characters in very different ways that if you don't know about, say, where these sources are coming from, if you're not looking into the infancy narratives, then you're like, well, what is this? Like, this is confusing. Is this more information? Is this right information? And so now later in life, in my formal education, digging into some of those things and figuring out, okay, well, here's how we trace those sources. Here's the paper trail. Here's how we can connect those dots between where potentially the author of the Quran was actually getting them from. That's when I did a lot of that legwork. But originally, I was reading the Quran, and I found it unusual, but I also found it did not accurately reflect things that I was looking for to answer the ultimate questions. Questions of like meaning and purpose and morality.
While you're going through
powerful.
Hey.
What?
Oh, before this is the most recent. This is the most recent, not this one. Quit putting weird stuff up when I'm trying to put something else up. So you put this comment by Steph S up. There we go. That's the one. AP, listen to yourself. How could Muhammad adopt false stories if adoption is outlawed? Use your brain. Awesome.
This is a good point. This is a very, very good point, GoTop. Always appreciate your deep insights. So Steph S says, AP, hope your foot is de-acidified. What worked if you're feeling better? David, would glad your voice is back. Take care of yourselves. We need you both healthy. Thank you. Very much appreciated. It is still kind of hurting. I just take different things like ibuprofen and take some steroid pills that are supposed to make it better. But they also really mess with my mood. So
remember, I told you about steroids. I told you about steroids, right? When I was a kid.
Yeah, you did. I think so.
Fifth grade. My teacher, Mr. Reynolds, said that. He said, "Yeah, it'll give you if you get poison ivy enough, they'll give you a shot of steroids. And I was like, we were all on the football team. I was like, what? I could get a decisive advantage here if I'm taking steroids. All I have to do. So I went down to a poison oak tree. I covered my entire body in this stuff. And anyway, they did give me a big steroid shot. It did not make me a massive powerhouse that I thought it would. But I thought my skin was actually like I swelled up so much not from muscles, from the poison oak. That I thought my skin was going to bust. It swelled so much. I thought it was actually going to explode like a grape. But anyway, so long story short, if anyone's planning on that, don't do it. It doesn't work.
Powerful. Yeah, for those who don't know, I have gout. I have lots of arthritis and lots of autoimmune disorder problems and so on. So that's what I do. Ratfish. My father was the first Islamophobe. You saw how that turned out. Powerful.
Ratfish. That's the ratfish, the one that the guy got pregnant with, and then
oh my god. Okay, yeah.
From sticking. Yeah, guys, we're gonna have to make something on this. Go through this a little more detail. But yeah, that's the guy who stuck Muhammad's toothbrush up his butt and gave birth to a little ratfish baby. That awesome stuff in the Muslim sources.
Powerful. Jane becoming a new member. Welcome to the club and welcome to the cult. Loaves of bread. PBD is positive about Islam because he knows nothing. Yeah, he also refuses to learn, pretty much. And he's not a very good listener or learner when it comes to things like these. I mean, I guess he's a good businessman and all that. So that's something that he can do well. Other than that, he doesn't really understand much of the discussions surrounding religion, which he likes to also invite to his channel all the time. It's kind of weird. Mush Cohen, PBD is as dishonest as one can get. This is very, very rude, Mush Cohen, and I agree completely. Yeah. Michael James Huff must read it in Arabic to see the truth.
That's true. Doesn't count.
Mager John says those Muhammad people and their book of Quran. Stephen Thomas, Mossab, look something angry AF, but stay polite. A great interview. Yeah, thank you. PBUM, the Huff Carson debate took too much in YouTube media. I like Huff historical biblical approach, while Carson messed it up further again. Any thoughts? I mean, there's just not much to be said. Billy Carson is a fraud, a scammer, and Wes Huff happens to be one of the most impressive people that I have listened to in terms of the scholarly aspect and the debates. It's great that it happened, that he went against Carson. It's a massacre.
Yep, and to Billy Carson's credit, we have him to thank for Wes just skyrocketing in popularity over almost no time. Stuff that it would have taken him, because he's been posting content. He's been doing scholarly research and so on, working on his PhD, but also posting videos along the way. Would have taken him another 10 to 20 years to get to this level of popularity if it wasn't for Billy Carson. So Billy Carson just boom, instant exposure. Awesome.
Powerful. Kerry Patterson, seeing Alex O'Connor's response to Wes on Rogan, I thought him intellectually honest, but this and other recent stuff makes me think him dishonest, disingenuous, lacking the knowledge he claims, or a combo of these. David, did you see it? I didn't see it.
I saw a few minutes of it. He's pointing out things like the thing I saw one thing from Alex. It's in the Joe Rogan interview. He said, Wes said that, originally we didn't have any really early manuscripts of the prophet Isaiah. So all you have is, a fairly recent copy of Isaiah. And then we got the Dead Sea Scroll, the great Isaiah scroll. And he says, and it matched up word for word. And so Alex points out, no, there are textual variants, and Alex is right. There are textual variants and so on. So it's just a question of like, is he, did he met? Because even here, when he's talking about Islam, he says that Abu Bakr's the second of the caliphs and so on. Like, we're looking at that going, okay, it's not right. And so what do you do? Do you say, okay, he doesn't know what he's talking about there, or he's just a little sloppy sometimes? I don't know. I'd be in favor. He clearly knows what he's talking about, guys. He clearly knows what he's talking about. Does he get some things wrong? Yes, and there are even Christians discussing the things that he gets wrong in some of the points he's making.
I mean, here's the thing. Also, you have a guy who is a scholar in the fields that he in most of the fields that he talks about at the moment. He did his work. He is very much devoted to it. He's very young, and here is also the other issue. He's somebody who just suddenly got catapulted into the limelight, into into publicity. So much attention on this guy because of what he did to Billy Carson. When you suddenly are exposed to so much publicity and so much pressure, things get really, really difficult.
Yeah, and you're jumping on shows and you don't know exactly what they're going to bring. Right? They're free flowing. And hey, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about Islam and so on? And so yeah, I don't get the impression that Wes is dishonest or making things up. Does he get some things wrong because he just, he's studied things over the years? Guys, this is, I mean, this happens with me too, and with AP as well. If we're talking about something and someone brings something up and we're responding to it from memory, from something we read 5 or 6 years ago, are we going to get some details wrong? Yeah. Does that mean we're trying to deceive people or something like that? No.
Well, the fact that he's not perfect just shows that you can't trust him. So there you go.
Mm-hmm. No.
Violet Ellis Evans, what he did to Billy Carson, no, Billy did this to himself. Well, let's be honest. Wes did murder Billy Carson, so you have to admit that. Sorry.
Thank you, Billy, for laying down your life so that Wes's career can flourish.
Powerful.
It's the most Christian thing you've ever done, Billy.
Yes.
Time. Are you sitting down with a Muslim scholar to debate and ask questions? Have you gone through that yourself? And if you did, what did you?
Oh, hang on. Yo. Yeah, someone just said Theos Thinker said Wes just made a video correcting himself. So I didn't watch it, but I saw you posted something like Wes versus Wes or something like this. Where
I saw it pop up as well.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but yeah, maybe he's saying, he messed up, and here's the correct version or something.
I'm sorry, I messed up. Stephen Thomas' dad tried to read Quran, gave up because it feels stupid. Good.
That's, by the way, that's a serious issue, guys, because I get asked all the time, David, I want to get into apologetics dealing with Islam. What should I start? Should I start by reading the Quran? I go, no. And I'm not saying, if a Muslim hears me say that, he's saying don't read the Quran because he knows it's powerful and it will convert the person. No, I know the person will give up. In chapter 2, halfway through chapter 2, that person will give up and will say, oh, okay, well, since this is what you'd have to do to do apologetics dealing with Islam, I can't do this. It's too painful. And then that person will give up and go blast away at atheism or something like that. So I tell people, learn it in a different way. And then eventually down the road, if you want to read through the entire Quran, read through the entire Quran.
Can I continue with the freaking video now?
No, there's important stuff that you bring up and I respond to.
I know.
A Muslim scholar to debate and ask questions. Have you gone through that yourself? And if you did, what did you learn? Did you see contradictions? Did you see, okay, I understand this part?
Yeah, I would routinely meet with Muslims, especially in like my university years. There were times where every Ramadan, my Muslim friends were reading the Quran. And so I would read the Quran alongside them. So we would read the entirety of the Quran.
We'd stuff ourselves with food
during the time of Ramadan. And I would use that as an opportunity both to learn, but also to I wanted to be an example to them. So when you were talking about my attitude in the way,
are you kidding me?
With Billy,
Wikipedia on Ramadan. Why? What is the purpose of the graphic? By the way, look at all the pictures of the giant meals they eat. This is all the delicious food we eat while we're fasting.
Look, Patrick's helper guy. When somebody talks and you put something on the screen, that's usually done to bring some diversity to what you see on the screen, to keep up engagement and so on, to bring context. When you put a whole page of a whole wall of text on here, like a Wikipedia page, that doesn't really help.
Yeah. Hey, pause it. Let's stop to read the Wikipedia article on Ramadan.
That's been my attitude all along, in that I'm part of an organization that does Christian apologetics. And apologetics
That's
is
the organization in Toronto you were talking about.
Yeah,
Right.
so it's in Canada, Apologetics Canada. But apologetics is just a word that
Apologetics
means to give a
Roadshow.
reason or to give a defense. And it comes from a passage in 1 Peter 3:15, which says, "But in your hearts revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have." But then it's the last part in that verse that I think is just as
Do
important.
this with
Not just
gentleness and
be
respect.
prepared to give an answer, but Peter says, "But in your hearts revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks for the reason for the hope that you have. But do so with gentleness and respect, keeping a clear conscience, so that those who speak maliciously against your good behavior in Christ will be ashamed of their slander." And I think when we approach these conversations, whether we're talking
At first, I thought PBD did that. That was AP. And I was like, wait, why is it moving? That's different.
Oh man.
That by the way, that 1 Peter 3:15, that's one that got thrown at me a lot over the years. Like, David, you're criticizing Islam and making fun of Muhammad. How can you do that when 1 Peter 3:15 says, do this with gentleness and respect? Like, read the verse. One, this is talking about Christians are being persecuted and so on. So makes sense for that context. But second, it's when people are asking you about the reason for the hope that you have. Hey, why do you have this hope in Jesus Christ? Of course, you're not supposed to be like insulting or mocking or something like that. Very different. In other words, apologetics is different from polemics. Apologetics is you're being asked to defend for a defense of what you believe. Polemics is you're attacking positions and so on. So anyway, there's a difference there, guys.
Look at these two clowns snorting. Why would we not be snorting if we are clowns? That's what makes it clowny. That's what we're here for, man.
Agnostics, atheists, Mormons, Muslims. For someone like myself who claims to be a Christian, if I'm only giving answers, but I'm not revering Christ as Lord in my heart, and those answers aren't done so with gentleness and respect, keeping a clear conscience, then I'm not actually obeying that command in Scripture to give an answer, because it needs to be
Look at this idiot snorting.
Yeah, I love that. So
I love that too. That's a good attitude. But this is the mistake. So when Christians like Wes Huff or David Wood comment, they're always polite and always want to be like friendly and polite and respectful and all of that. This is the mistake. What you have to do is when you go out and preach to people, you are supposed to talk like this.
You're finished already. Look at me. Look at me. You know you're done. You're sick. You're a sick liar. You're a liar.
How about you get on your knees?
And don't forget, that's the things he says in his videos, but is the messages he sends to us and posts. It's all golden showers. Why don't you give each other golden showers? That's how it's supposed to be done, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Urinating upon one another. That's what they do.
They do.
let me go a little bit deeper with this. So, question for you: somebody may say, okay, so the Quran, and the illiterate prophet.
Good point. That's a very good point. And on that note, Steph S., the book of choke them, slap them, pull their hair, and call them names. Rate is a tapist. That's true.
I like the saying, rate as a tapist. That way he can't sue you, because he would sue you for this.
Yes. Don't ever say Tate is a rapist.
Yeah. Even though it's true, even though he is.
Yeah. And by the way, Andrew Tate is a rapist. Grumpy Granny, if you have a YouTube channel, please share this. We can all do our part. Why not start an anonymous channel just to share these, just asking questions? Exactly. If I had a YouTube channel, I would totally share this too.
I would as well.
David Abu Dawood, Tate is no role model for Wes, but you know who is? Muhammad. 10 Reasons Mo is the perfect role model. Shake It Off video will show Wes the truth.
Powerful.
David H., I love watching both of you, but as an atheist, I feel I can only put money onto your stream. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Appreciate it.
But AP is not an atheist.
AP is a gaytheist. I had to.
We should start calling atheists gaytheists and just go full Andrew Tate and all you gaytheists out there, since that's what works apparently with the young generation.
Oh, did you see that he recently attacked the Christians who are calling him out?
I know, dude. It's so funny. This is like person drowning and just lashing out in every direction. It's so. You go back just a year ago, and it's like, Great Britain needs Islam. They must convert to Islam. I challenge all of you to convert to Islam to save your country. And then just a couple weeks ago, it's Great Britain is a Christian nation. Islam must not take over. And then Christians blast him for pretending to be buddies with the Christians now. And then, oh, you Christians seething over what are you because I'm cool and you're all dorks.
Yeah, look at this. After so many Christians came out and criticized him and said, why would you people follow Andrew Tate? This is not good. He said, all the Christians seething over, why do young men listen to Tate? Because I'm effing cool and you're all dorks. Why do they listen to the man that makes them strong, powerful, and rich over the people telling them to accept homos and forgive transgression? Losers. You know what's the great irony about this here? That he is blasting Christian dorks for preaching forgiving transgressions. Andrew Tate is the one who has done so much messed up stuff that the only way anyone could ever endorse him would be to look past all of the things that he did and said and to just permanently forgive him for all of those. But yet he thinks that Christians are dorks because of the forgiving transgressions. What an imbecile.
Extreme. I mean, and tactical imbecile as well, right? I mean, you just had he was just on Benny Johnson's show, and then has what's her face on there, Alina something, Alina Haba or something like this. Yeah. So, and they're, oh, you're so great. Oh my goodness, you're the greatest man who ever lived. Blah 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 blah. And they've been getting blasted right now, which calls into question whether he will be able to be on shows like that anymore. If people know they're just going to get blasted by their own fans afterwards. And the intelligent way for him to react would be the way that people on the side of those shows tried to defend themselves. Oh, come on, guys. People change over time. He should have leaned into that and said, guys, yes, I know I've done some things in the past, but I'm trying to change. I mean, can't you Christians be on board with someone trying to change it? We would know, people who follow his stuff, we would know that that's a grift. But the smartest thing that he could have possibly done in order to continue his grift would have been to pretend, oh, but I've changed. I mean, you seriously going to hold stuff against me in the past that I've turned away from? That's what he should have done. Instead, he starts insulting Christians, insulting women, all this stuff. Smart guy in opposite world.
And he also, Andrew Tate, this is only 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Fact, women are sex workers.
Wait, even his mom, even his sister, just women in general, right? And guys, everyone who's watching, your mom, your sister, your wife, your girlfriend, your daughter, whoever, women are all sex workers. By the way, this isn't new. I've seen him post this in the past. Matter of fact, there's one of his old posts where he said, every woman has her price. Every woman has her price. It may be a low price, maybe a very high price, but every woman you can buy like a prostitute.
I don't know what this is about, but I just saw the Babylon Bee posting 12 alpha male tips for getting tons of women. I really wonder what this is about.
Probably funny, man. Click on it.
No. So Andrew Tate said, fact, women are sex workers. This includes all women, by the way, Yamama and all the others. Women are sex workers. Their primary job now is to find one customer called a boyfriend to pay for their entire lives in return for pussy. If they fail at this, they do OnlyFans or porn. The same game with more than one customer. If they're ugly, they work a job badly and are miserable. Now, here's the funny thing. Now, first off, if you are somebody like Andrew Tate, who only surrounds himself with women that he turns into porn actresses, and then also has sex with them and makes kids with them, which is very funny. then of course what you will
that's their
think
only
is
purpose.
that what you will think is then that women are all together sex workers. But the other thing that is also funny is that this guy describes all women as either prostitutes or porn stars or whores or horrible workers who do a terrible job. On the other hand, he goes on with Alina Habba, and she starts flirting with him. Hey, I'm such a big fan of yours.
Yeah,
And
she
he
probably
goes
agree with this.
says, yeah, I'm a big fan of you too.
Yeah, and
totally.
this would have Benny Johnson. This would have been a perfect opportunity to say, "Hey, glad I got you guys together to discuss this tweet." So, Andrew, you just posted a fact: women are sex workers. Explain that to Alina. And apparently, she'd have been like, "Well, I get guilty as charged, I guess, because I can't disagree with you."
Man. Terrible stuff.
Yeah, and it's crazy. So that's the only thing about a woman any guy could be interested in. That's the only sort of asset that women. It's not, hey, this is my companion. This is going to be the mother of my children. She's actually part of my children. Like, we combine to produce these future offspring and so on, and together make a family that makes that has, we have that family continues for generations, and so like together we're building the future and so on. Nope, it's just the JJ. It's all this buying the JJ from her.
A computer. But if your girl won't wave her titties at a computer, when you're not with her, she's touching her pussy in front of a laptop anyway. If that girl won't do it for you to help change both your lives, that's a good test. Get rid of her straight away.
PhD test.
This is what Tristan Tate and Andrew Tate are teaching people. If you have a girl and your girl will not go online and do sex work for you to make you money, then you should get rid of her.
Not a good girl. Not a good girl. Got to get rid of her.
Then you should get rid of her. This is what they're teaching. I'm not going to play the rest of the video because this is not an Andrew Tate live stream, and they happen to have like really messed up language.
We should have an Andrew. Matter of fact, later this week we're going to have an Andrew Tate live stream, because we've had a bunch of people responding to Andrew Tate and Andrew Tate scrambling to defend himself. We need to do some Andrew Tate stuff later this week.
But this is this kind of stuff that they have been suggesting men forever. Get a good girl, and put her online, make her take off her clothes, and let her make money for you. Yeah. If she's not doing it, then get rid of her.
Wait, you got to combine that with other stuff they said. And while she's showing everyone her boobies, you're on the keyboard typing to the guy, "Oh, you're so big and strong. Oh, I love your pee-pee. Oh, it's so good." That's what these guys were. The guys were not exaggerating. That's what these guys were doing. They were the ones who were texting the guys back and forth, pretending to be the girls. But they're actually the ones talking dirty to the guy, getting him off. Those are your super masculine, definitely not gay, top G's. I know, I saw that too. People are funny that way.
Oh man,
Muhammad, right? And inconsistent. And somebody may say, okay, so the Quran. And the illiterate prophet, Muhammad, right? And, inconsistencies in the book that was written, not like the Bible where you're kind of going through it and it's a Old Testament, New Testament. I kind of feel like, okay, when I'm going through a letter
together to expose the list.
I'm kind of feeling, he's giving his testimony, he's giving it. Maybe there's a little bit of differences, but for the
I'm feeling the vibe here.
Most part, I can see how their point of view while they're walking with Jesus, they see this. Okay. Why do you think the religion, 610, 632, Common Era, Quran is done, from 632 to today, why do you think it's become the fastest growing religion in the world? And now they have, I don't know what the number is, 1.5 billion.
How did it happen?
Maybe I'm 1.4 billion.
We know exactly how it happened.
Somewhere around
Patrick.
there.
How did it happen, man?
Patrick, this is no great mystery. All you just said, fastest growing religion. All you have to do is look up the source, the Pew Research poll from many years ago, which said that Islam is the fastest growing religion, and they tell you Exactly why. It's in there. Here's why it is growing rapidly. And the reason is that Muslims have the highest birth rates wherever they go. If it's in the Middle East, Muslims have the highest birth rates. If it's in Africa, Muslims have the highest birth rates. If it's in the UK, Muslims have the highest birth rates. Their birth rates differ depending on where it is, but they always have the highest birth rates. And so that's one. It's because of birth rates. It's not because of mass. It's not because so many people are converting to it. No. Birth rates. But second, when you actually look into why they have the highest birth rates, it's because of the way Islam treats women. Women in Muslim areas and Muslim communities and so on have significantly fewer opportunities than non-Muslim women. In other words, the ideal in the West is at the very least your girl goes to school and so on. She goes to school for a while. She might have a career. She might go on to college and so on. In Afghanistan, you're not even allowed for a girl to go to school after like what, 6th grade or something like that. So you're married off and you start having babies. So by the time an average woman in the West is having her first child, that's after she's gone through school and figured out what she's going to do, and then she gets married and so on. She's having her first kid around like 28 or something. That's what by 28 in Afghanistan, the Muslim woman is on 7th or 8th kid. And that's why Islam is growing. This is not a mystery, Patrick. We know why this is. And if you've heard from Muslims, Islam's the fastest growing religion, this proves that it's true. What you're actually saying is, if a religion basically does nothing with women except turn them into baby making machines, then it must be true. And I think if Muslims want to defend that argument, I'd be interested in hearing it. Until then, I think it's a really, really stupid claim to make.
Yeah, as for the reason why Islam historically grew very rapidly, it's actually quite simple. I would always, and I will never cease recommending this book here, which is very, very insightful, In God's Path by Robert G. Hoyland. Would never stop recommending this. Very, very good stuff. The Arab conquest and the creation of an Islamic empire. He goes very much in detail, in depth, into the early spread of Islam, and explains that Islam found it was a great opportunity. Islam found a great vacuum when it just started growing in Arabia, as the Eastern Roman Empire and the Persian Empire bordering the Arab tribes were incredibly weak and destabilized. The Arab tribes began invading brutally and started taking over. Initially, it wasn't even about spreading Islam. It was just about conquering as much territory and looting as much as possible. And with these aggressive attitudes, later on centralizing it all, taking it all under one authority, which would be the Islamic Caliphate, it began a massive campaign of expansion. And this continued very much. It was always part of Islam, always a fundamental part of Islam, to conquer and to spread the religion by will or by force. On this path, Islam expanded brutally and rapidly from the first moment that it arose. That's the reason why it spread so rapidly. And of course, the birth rate aspect is another part. That's basically Islam for you. It didn't spread by preaching and people being like, wow, this is an awesome new religion, man. I love this stuff. I'm going to tell all my friends and my parents about this wonderful religion. That's not how it went. That's not how it went at all. They had the sword to their necks and they were like, okay, man, okay, take whatever you want.
1.9 billion. Why do you think it's grown exponentially, that at this point they're saying in the next 30 years it's going to be the biggest religion in the world, and some even say where 30% of House or Senate in America could be run by Muslims? Why do you think it's grown so big?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have an exact prognosis. I mean, Islam is a very different religion than something like Christianity, in that it has a socio-political component to it that Christianity doesn't, in that it is a political religious system. And it was designed that way from its beginning, in that Muhammad if once again we're assuming that the traditional Islamic sources are correct, he was a warlord. And so
Shut down the podcast, Patrick.
Shut it down. How could you say this?
We've seen what happens when someone calls Muhammad a warlord.
How could
get
you
in
say
trouble for that?
this?
You can't call him a warlord. Jordan Peterson many years ago called Muhammad a warlord and was eventually compelled to apologize for that.
Don't you know what happened to Jordan Peterson? Do you not know what happened to Jordan Peterson? Do you not know what happened to Jordan Peterson?
Do you not know?
Do you not know what happened to Jordan Peterson?
Number two, for me, and
He said
again,
number
this
two.
may be a consequence of my ignorance, which I'm trying to rectify. Muhammad was a warlord,
What?
and I don't know what to do
What to
about
do with that? About that.
I don't know.
I don't know what to do about that.
One thing you can say about Christ, hypothetically, let's say, I'm not talking about a historical reality necessarily, although I'm not denying it either, is that of all the things he was, warlord was definitely not one of them.
Funny. and of all the things he was, child molester definitely wasn't one of them either, unlike with Muhammad.
The funny thing is that later he was confronted about this and he was like, well, okay, maybe I shouldn't have said that. But then he was confronted about Islam by none other than Mohammed Hijab, who then tried to convert him to Islam by convincing him how awesome Islam is. And then the result of that...
And by reciting the Quran in Arabic, which they always think is like magic, like you're going to hear this, and you're going to be like, that has to be from God, eh? That has to be from God. So,
Oh
AP,
my goodness.
AP, it's funny because they were trying to win. They were trying to win people like Jordan Peterson when they were looking for like a big name convert. Didn't work. What they got was Andrew Tate and Sneeko. Andrew Tate and Sneeko is what they got. They went for Jordan Peterson. They went for the famous people. They wanted Joe Rogan. They wanted Jordan Peterson. They got Andrew Tate and Sneeko. So
How about no?
What happened is this here.
The attributes of God, how are they knowable? Is that only through relationship with the book? Does that also have an experiential element as far as you
عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم سبحان الله.
Why approach the answer to my question in that manner?
my question exactly. Hey, AP, AP, I'm here. I'm the answer man. Ask me anything. Go ahead and ask me something.
Well, how can you explain to me the seriousness of the situation under which the concordance has been conducted? But his response is just amazing.
Why approach the answer to my question in that manner? I don't understand the language. What purpose does that serve in the discussion with someone like me? How do you know when that's appropriate and when it's not?
you put the Larry David. What was funny was I remember the Muslim reactions after this. Look, Jordan Peterson is ready to break down in tears when he hears the powerful Quran recitation by Brother Hijab. It's like, what planet are you guys living on, man?
Yeah, and that led to this.
How about no? I don't buy your Ella.
Oh boy. Thank you, Hijab. You've created all the enemies in the world.
if from its inception there's been a different attitude. Jesus was the crucified Messiah, in that he said, I've come to not be served, but to serve. And so when we see the beginnings of Christianity, we see an attitude where people are motivated by love your neighbor, pray for those who persecute you, love those who hate you. If a Roman soldier asks for your tunic, you give him, your undercoat also. And so there's a different attitude when we look at the substance of something like Christianity, in that Christians were willing to be persecuted and die because they believed that Jesus had already won, that he was sitting at the right hand of the Father. And so their battle cries were pray and pray, evangelize, and be willing to lose your life for this.
Here's the thing. I never really heard about it like this before. What he just said there, this little part. And I'm not sure if it's just my unfamiliarity with it, or my lack of familiarity with it, or what it is. But this talking point here.
Willing to be persecuted and die because they believed that Jesus had already won, that he was sitting at the right hand of the Father. And so their battle cries were pray. And
so that's the difference between the Christians, for example, and the Muslims in spreading the message was would be the sacrifice, the going out and preaching, because they had already won. Jesus had already, it is already accomplished, and so on. This is this is a narrative that I didn't really hear from that aspect so far. Is it just me? I don't know. What do you think?
It's just you.
Okay, good.
And pray, evangelize, and be willing to lose your life for this message. Whereas with Islam, there was much more of a system where it was designed to subjugate the entire world under Islam. So you have the Dar al-Islam, the House of Islam, and then you have the rest of the world. And so
this is good. This is good. He is describing.
Wait, is this their graphic?
Yes.
Thank you, PBD's graphic guy.
Powerful.
I think there's a political.
It's good that he actually spelled it out and said that that Islam basically had the mission, or has the mission still, to subjugate the entire world. Because this is something that I hear from Islamophobic people like David Wood, but to hear this from Wes Huff is interesting.
The rest of the world. And so I think there's a political component to Islam that is very different than Christianity. I think there's also, especially in the West, we're basically being outbred, in that traditional Muslim homes have more kids. I mean, there's also the component of having more wives within majority of Muslim countries that's allowed, but having more kids. And so you have more kids, and you have a system that allows for certain things. And so that's going to grow faster than a society which is dissuading families from growing, is maybe even demonizing the growth of a household for various reasons, whether that be political or environmental or otherwise. And so you just have very different worldview foundations for something like Christianity than you do for something like
Do you
Islam.
think the world's a better placed?
The world is a better placed. Yeah. David, what do you think about this? Ayatollah Khamenei said Wes Huff needs to provide commentary on the Muhammad Jibreel cave booty call.
Yeah, Muhammad's first encounter with Diya al-Kalbi. He didn't realize what it really was. It's, hey, I just came in here to pray, and then Diya came up behind me and choked me, and said, hey, I came in here for something else.
Shane Johnson, you guys see Cam trying to correct West while using only Catholic sources? Thoughts? I feel he is in the wrong. I haven't seen it, but...
Haven't seen it. We could always do it. We could always have a live stream going through what Wes said and the responses to him and so on.
Well, Cameron Bertuzzi is always right, so I'm not sure what I could possibly say about this. So that's there's that aspect. Grumpy Granny, God's gonna talk to one guy, looks around him. Oh, him. Yeah, exactly. Winnie the Pooh says, yeah, Mama said that the Quran is the devil. Yeah, that's true. Mortaza Mustafa, David, please read Best Example of Muha, chapter 33, verse 37 of the Quran.
I'm not going to read the whole. That's long. If AP wants to put it up on the screen or something like that, but I can give you the gist, guys. That is Surah 33, verse 37 is about Muhammad and Zainab, and that's where Allah, trying to defend Muhammad, tells Muhammad that he had to marry the wife of his own adopted son for a clear purpose. And the purpose, according to Surah 33, verse 37, is that Allah really needed other men to know that it's okay to bang the wives of their own adopted sons.
Did you just say other men? Did you just say other men?
Other men. Other men. But yes, Otterman too. Otterman also knew to bang the wives of their own adopted sons. But yeah, so guys, it's this really weird situation. Needs to be popularized even more because of the level of absurdity. One is there's this idea that Allah needs to settle this question that men have, that people are they're always wondering. Men are always wondering, should I bang the wife of my own adopted son? People are always struggling with this. So finally, Allah has to step in and say, finally, I'm gonna solve this problem that no one has ever heard of before. No one's ever had to deal with except Muhammad. But Muhammad, I'm going to need you to bang that smoking hot wife of your own adopted son. I really need you to do it for the sake of other men who need to understand that this is a thing. It's okay to have sex with wives of your own adopted sons. What's the additional level of stupidity besides thinking that this is a problem that that just is widespread among men? That the other problem is that also in conjunction with this issue, Allah abolished adoption in Islam. So it's a situation that would never arise again, right? So he's saying, look, this is so important that people understand what they could do. They could go out and bang the wives of their own adopted sons, that I need you, Muhammad, to do it so that it can set an example for all the future. And then Allah abolishes all adoption in the future so that it's never a situation that would arise again. So why did Muhammad need to have sex with his adopted son's wife? Makes zero sense. But you will recall that according to Muhammad Hijab, that's incest.
Yes,
that's incest. So Allah needed Muslims to understand so deeply that incest is good that he had to have Muhammad commit incest.
Powerful. Ayatollah Khamenei says, Pat asks all Christians about the Quran and has had many Muslims on, yet this goober admits he hasn't even bothered to open the Quran. That's funny. Steph asks, the book of You Must Know Arabic to Understand How to Abuse Humanity. Trust me, bro. Ayatollah Khamenei, Storytelling 101, Show, Don't Tell, the Holy Quran. Tell, but don't show unless you don't believe it, in which case you were hellbound to begin with, okay? T33, Allah's Harry Potter School, teaches humans magic just to punish them. I don't think why nobody brings that up. This is good. It is actually good. Ayatollah Khamenei, Quranified Star Wars a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, unless you're a loser and don't like cool stories about space knights and hot aliens. This accurately reflects the mood of the Quran.
It does.
Keith Gardick says, gentlemen, could one of you kindly change your chat ID to ruler of Australia? Hopefully you will get the joke. What's the joke?
Don't know. The only phrase I know that from is from Superman 2, where General Zod says, Lex Luthor, ruler of Australia, activate the machine. But I don't know what this person's referring to.
I've never watched any of that, so I don't know.
Based on one faith or
you weren't born yet.
When you're speaking with Muslims, there is a pride for them to, we're going to outgrow you and we're going to be the dominant religion in the world. And, it's going to be the way we run things, cities, like right now with what's going on with UK. I don't know if you're following the challenges that UK is going through, where the most common name given, 30%, I think, I don't know what it was, the most common name given to kids in 2024 was Mohammed. And this is UK.
30%, that can't be right. That can't be right.
No, I don't think so. It's just it became the number one. But I don't know what the actual stats are.
La la li la 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 la. La 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 la. I don't really know. Hard to look it up. Mohammed and Olivia, top names in 2023. Registered baby name boys, girls. But yeah, 30% is kind of what?
Hey, to be funny. Yes. Funny things to tweet with Andrew Tate would be to share his tweet about women being sex workers. And just to share those all over the place and say things like, is he saying, and just pick a random Dawa, is he saying that Ali Dawa's mom is a sex worker? Is he saying that Ali Dawa's wife is a sex worker? Is he saying that so-and-so's daughter is a sex worker? And just go down the list of everyone who might get ticked off at their mother or wives or daughters or so on. And anyway, Tate does these things that he thinks, this is really impressive to my 14-year-old fan base, and could cause more division if you point it out. So, guys, let's have to explore this a little bit. But who might be a little upset at having his significant other or mother or daughter or something like that being called a sex worker? Might be fun to explore.
This is an interesting thing.
It's not interesting at all.
Looking up statistics, names for boys in each local authority, England and Wales, and it shows places where Muhammad is the number one choice.
Around any of the major cities now, Islam's taking over the cities.
Here you see London. In London, you have these northeastern parts.
You got these.
And then these.
And these.
And then these. So these are, I guess, places that you want to avoid. Interesting. Luton, of course. So places you want to avoid are marked in dark, whatever color this is supposed to be here. So these are places, if you go to the UK, these are places you may want to avoid, just so you know. Powerful.
If you're a weakling.
Baby names in popular culture, films, Margot, Cillian. Yeah. All right. See ya.
Hey, right. You're talking about. Do you think Christians, the goal is to what? Are in your mind, is it if the faith that we have today, it's the same it was yesterday, it's the same it's going to be 100 years from now, where some criticism may be like, well, look, the church is getting smaller. Some data that we have, if you want to pull it up, you see this with Pew Research, and they'll show it and say, well, here's
he talks about this all the time on his show. None of it is hard to figure out, and he always acts massively confused.
I don't understand.
I don't understand. I'll keep asking why Islam several years ago was called the fastest growing religion. When it says it, like, you could look at the front page of the report and it tells you. But Christian, did you notice it's here in the West, you've got atheism and stuff. Isn't this weird? Maybe. What the heck is your point in all this? It's always like he's like kissing up to Islam and, they're so strong. Why are they so strong?
That's what they do.
You sound like a freaking dork. Any idiot can do. Any idiot can do this. We could all go. Turn 9 and 10-year-old girls into baby making machines for the rest of their life. Anyone could do that. We choose not to.
So, David, but here's the thing. What I don't understand is, so there are studies which say that Islam will be like the fastest growing religion, and that it will soon take over.
Oh my goodness!
And why? Why is that?
Why? No one knows. No one knows. It's just we should all just convert, man. We should all just convert. Whatever spreads most rapidly is something you should convert to. Let me think about how rapidly wokeism spread. I mean, it just spread from person to person. Oh my goodness, we must do that. You know what else spread? Communism. Communism spread so rapidly. It was one of the fastest growing movements.
So David, I understand what you're doing, but why does it spread so fast? If you just could briefly explain it in 2 words or 3.
No one knows. How are you not getting this? No one knows.
I see.
All you can do is convert to it.
I see. I understand. But here is the thing. What's mind-boggling to me is that it grows very fast. And why do you think that is?
No one knows.
Man. You name them. I've been to a lot of mega churches in America today because you're going places like, I want to see how this guy preaches. I want to see how that guy preaches. I want to see what this is like. You're like, wait a minute. Why is this so empty here? Why did we build a facility?
That's a myth. I don't know what planet this dude is from. Every church I go to is packed. Keep in mind, I know that happens in certain areas and stuff like that. But that the fact that he harps on this every time, every church you go to is just empty. There's I go in there, there's one person. Stop. Come on. No, you didn't. You didn't. You hear this from Muslims telling you, did all your churches are empty? Again, there are empty churches out there, I'm sure. There are packed churches out there. There are empty mosques, Patrick. What did they have to close? They had to close down thousands of mosques in Iran because no one is going to. What's that say? Oh, Islam is dying. Islam is just done.
No, here's the thing. I went to a church which I booked for myself to host an event, and when I went in there, it was empty, and I don't understand.
Weird. One of life's great mysteries.
So I actually went to church for the first time in my life during a Sunday service last weekend.
Empty.
Because my wife took me. And so that's the first time that I actually went to church for service, and I was the only person there.
Mm-hmm. AP standing in a big room by himself.
Yeah. I couldn't even see my wife. I don't know where she went.
She disappeared.
No, I went in there. It was there were lots of people in there, so I don't see this, and it was a random church, But what's funny? Actually, I went to the church. It was an Orthodox church. I went to church. And this is the first time that we went there. It was a random place that we went, or my wife picked it. What's funny though, the priest of the church, the father, he later on sent a message to my wife, who before that got in touch and said that he was a little bit surprised because he had seen my videos online before. This is what the priest said at the church.
That is totally based.
That's kind of funny. Man.
80% of the place is empty. Why did you build this place? Why do you think on one side, one religion is growing and the other one isn't? Like this is a number right here, if you look at, right? From 1940, church memberships amongst U.S. adults, 73, 76, 73. So we're around 70% for about 45 years. Then it drops, still at 70% in 2000. But in the last 20 years, 70, 64, 61, 57, 55, 50, 47. And I don't know what that number is today. Why do you think?
Well, here's the thing, PBD. If you do the same statistics in a Muslim country for mosques, you will get the same results. In fact, the Arabic barometer.
Why do you think that mosque attendance dropped so significantly in Iran? AP, is this a sign that Islam is weak?
Yes. Why?
I seriously don't understand. He does this every time I've ever watched him. It's why is Islam so strong and based and manly and stuff? And it's so strong. It looks like it's going to take over the world. Why is this? What are we going to? Isn't this interesting? Isn't this? And we can't figure this out. When it takes you 2 minutes to look up why to look up. Again, all you have to do is search for the actual study that said Islam was the fastest growing religion. They said it. They said exactly why it is. High birth rates. We know why they have high birth rates, low opportunities for women. So what you're saying is, look at how we treat women. We treat them like baby making machines. Therefore, what? Therefore, Islam is true? What are you saying? Oh my goodness, fallen Moscowers in Iran now highly alarming. This is a proof.
You see.
Hey, you know what's booming in Iran? Underground church. Oh, what? Why? Why is the church booming? Why is the underground church booming in Iran? What the mosques are empty. What are we gonna do? What should we do about this?
Underground church sounds kind of based though.
It is. It sounds based.
Underground church.
Church underground. That'd be a cool name. That'd be a cool name for a YouTube channel. Church underground.
Church underground.
This is happening.
So I think we do need to be careful with the statistics because we used to live in a culture that was much more culturally Christian than it is today. And sometimes I look at these numbers and I often wonder, okay, yes, you see this kind of downward trajectory, but I wonder...
The trajectory continues as it is.
If the trajectory continues as it is.
I mean, in Canada, in not that long ago, only a few decades ago, you had something like the Lord's Day Act, where you were not allowed to have a business open on Sunday because it was the Lord's Day. Mm-hmm. And there was just more of a cultural zeitgeist that was not necessarily...
Zeitgeist. It was the day of the Lord. What?
Don't what me. But
I think... Christian it was Christian out of convenience, not Christian out of conviction. And so I think a lot of people used to go to church because...
Is PBD always like this? Like just putting a bunch of text on the screen? Like who wants to look at freaking...
Yeah, I've never...
doing a conversation.
He didn't do... I've probably watched like, I guess two or three of his discussions or something like that, but I don't recall this like being this super annoying. I don't recall this super annoying habit of just putting random things up on the screen as someone's talking.
So weird.
Maybe they were just following along in the society and that's just part of what you did. And the culture shifted, and now the culture is not saying that going to church is necessarily something that you should do or need to do. And so I'm always curious as to how many of these people who used to, fill out the little tick box and say, I'm a Christian, I go to church on Sunday, how many of them were doing so because it was just par for the course for their culture, and the culture shifted and they weren't really necessarily convictionally Christian then, and they were following the stream of the flow of the culture, and the stream of the flow shifted. And so now it's just more culturally accepted to not go to church. And so I wonder whether the people who are going to church now are actually those that choose to go to church convictionally and are what you would refer to as the actual Christians, that feel that conviction that Jesus is their Lord and Savior.
You know what I would...
So that's the point, David. See? You've been finished. You've been humiliated.
I've indeed been humiliated.
Then there is another part where where they come back to Islam once again. Assertiveness, baptize, pastor, fired up, jabba jubba jagga jugu gaga gugu. And then PBT does something very, very, very weird.
Tell me the difference between Presbyterian and Orthodox. And I said, I'm going to ask Wes. I think that's a good thing for you to break down, but I'll go there in a minute. But let's just kind of stay on this topic here. It's just kind of
Presbyterian and Orthodox.
Andrew Tate and I are speaking. And I'm sure you know who Andrew Tate is.
Mm-hmm. No, who's he?
A year and a half ago.
He said urine.
He gets out of jail. I'm there, the first person to interview him. He had an issue with BBC. We're sitting there talking, and
I'm not going to make the joke. Okay.
He says, when I was in jail, I decided to convert to being a Muslim, religion of Islam. Okay. Tell me why. I don't know if you know his reason or not. Have you heard his reason?
I have heard him articulate.
And he says, when I was there, how many Christian friends of mine and fans wrote me a letter? None. Do you know how many Muslims wrote me a letter? I can't even tell you. And to me, when I saw that, boom. Okay. So while we're talking, I'm writing this thing down.
Pause this. Pause it. Again, this is so...
Did you see the powerful reason why Andrew Tate converted to Islam, according to him?
Yeah, because Muslims who are desperate for a popular influencer. I mean, in full panic mode. And because Andrew had spent the past few years before that praising Islam knows how to treat women. Islam is the great religion. Islam knows. There are all these clips of him talking and him saying things like, if you try to walk down the street in London with a shirt that says Muhammad is gay, you will not survive to the end of the block, and I respect him for that. He's saying all these things. So then he's in prison. Muslims, send him, and Christians want nothing to do with him because he claimed to be a Christian, and he turns out he's like the serial sex trafficker and abuser and so on. He's like, we're not interested in we're not interested in claiming you. And then so you see, and PBD is impressed by this. Look at the Muslims, they're contacting him. Dude, are you freaking stupid? Are you an idiot, Patrick? They're probably sending messages to freaking Harvey Weinstein saying, hey, we will support you if you come out and say that you are Muslim, and this is the proof. There you have it. Andrew Tate became Muslim because Christians didn't send him letters. Is that a good reason to convert there? And PBD, think about this from the perspective of a lying, manipulating grifter. These are the people who are fine with what I'm doing. These people over here don't like what I'm doing. And I refuse to actually just repent. If I just came out and said everything I did was wrong, I'm confessing everything, I'm making restitution, Christians would have loved me, but I was a complete unrepentant, lying grifter. Turns out there is one community that absolutely loves lying, sex trafficking, abusive grifters. There's one community that absolutely loves that, and I found the community for me. So I converted. PBD, wow, this is really powerful for Islam. It's so strong. It's so impressive for Islam. And PBD, since you're so impressed by Andrew Tate, why don't you look at how he's doing with Muslims right now? They're going to war with him. He's blocking all of the Dawah guys because they're blasting away at him for the things he says. How is this going? How well is this going? How well is this going for Andrew and for Islam? So I can understand PBD a couple years ago being, what is this? He's still bringing this up. He's still bringing up this idiotic nonsense from years ago with Wes Huff. Hey, Wes, what about Andrew Tate and what about his prison state? I don't know. Do you think he's one of the guys getting paid? I don't know.
You know what the funny thing is? I actually made sure if I was right or not. So I checked for Tate being mentioned in the transcript. Wes Huff doesn't mention Andrew Tate, nor does he respond to PBD's questions about Andrew Tate a single time. He basically ignores it and moves on to something else. But PBD brings up Andrew Tate again and then again. And Wes Huff still doesn't respond to it and just moves on to Christianity and Islam. It's so stupid. Why are you doing this?
Yeah, did you not have time to prepare, Patrick? And so you just brought up your notes from your Andrew Tate discussions and so on, just recycle those. And well, let's talk about what Andrew Tate said in this video.
And I'm writing why people convert because I'm actually curious. So this wasn't prepared. I'm literally, when you're talking, I'm writing this stuff down while we're having a conversation. Why do people convert to Christianity or Muslim or Jehovah?
Why do they convert to Muslim?
Or Jehovah? Or Mormonism?
Or Jehovah? Why do they convert to Jehovah?
Yeah, let's solve this mystery right now, Wes. Why do people convert to things? Huh? Why is that? I've always wondered that. Why do people convert? Wes, why do people convert to things?
And Wes, to be specific, why do people convert to Jehovah?
Why do they convert to Jehovah? Why?
Why do they convert to Muslim and Jehovah? Why?
This is much sloppier than I've watched a couple of this, but he seemed to be really well prepared in past episodes, and now it just seems random and sloppy. Looks like he's got the notes for the wrong show, and he's got a guy pulling up like whatever you say. Hey, one day I ate a sandwich, and he'll pull up a freaking Wikipedia article about sandwiches for some reason.
Yeah,
Scientology or whatever maybe, right? And I've been through all of these guys. I used to go debate Scientologists all the time to know what they're thinking about, right? In LA, at their main Scientology center. So one is through your example, testimony, the way you live. Like you showed grace with Billy Carson. I walked away and I said, my son should watch this guy because men would benefit from having grace, especially when you can be a bully and you show grace. That's even more honorable.
Right.
Right? When
Jesus to the proof. Pretty Lenny says that. He's thinking, how much? How can I have known this? I must be a prophet.
Can we not fight? And walks away. You know this guy can whoop this guy's tail, but he doesn't. That's grace. Good for you, right? Versus, God, let me go beat him up, show him the fact that I know Taekwondo or whatever. So to me, one is example testimony. Okay? Was that set there for Andrew? I don't know. Two, the actual...
See, this is why I get disinvited from Patrick Bet David's show. For those who don't know, a long time ago, I was actually invited to Patrick Bet David's show to talk about religion, talk about Islam versus other things, and so on. And one day before I was supposed to appear there, I got a message saying, actually, we have to postpone this to some other time, and we will let you know when. And it's kind of funny because I thought that's a very odd way to handle things. Like you arrange it, and then one day before you tell me, oh, actually, no, we'll do that some other time, maybe next year. They probably saw my responses to Patrick Bet David and thought, okay, we're not going to have this guy on here. I don't know.
Content. What's in the book of Quran? What's in the book of
Quran?
The book of Quran, you see?
In the book of Quran. I found this out from my debates with Scientologists.
Moroni, what's in L. Ron Hubbard's, what's the book called? Dianetics, right? I've found in my experience, less than 10% of the time is the content. Because most people don't read the Bible. Most people don't read the whole book. It's the example, somebody in their lives. Third one I wrote down is disappointment, heartbreak, hurt. Hey, you hurt me. You weren't there. You're a Christian. And because of that,
I became a Muslim. I converted to Muslim because Christians, they hurt me. I was in jail and the Christians didn't send me any letters.
After I spent years talking about how weak and pathetic Christianity is and how they don't know how to treat women like women need to be treated, and I praised Islam for being great, for how it just keeps women in check and puts them in their place, and how you could just beat the crap out of women, and I love it, and it's so strong and powerful, and I just talk about how I want to continue trafficking these girls and so on. And I found out that Islam is the only religion, and then Christians, they don't want anything to do with me. They don't want me representing them. So I'll show you. I'll convert to Islam.
Christians, they don't like my
PBD. Wow, this is very powerful. How can I analyze this? It's because
Christians don't accept me as a sex trafficker and rapist. Muslims do. This is why Islam is true.
For the rest of my life, I'm going to be against you. Maybe Billy Carson. I don't know. I'm not trying to psychoanalyze. I'm just kind of watching maybe for myself, for yourself, for everybody. You had a great example.
Anyway, the rest of this seems kind of garbage. Wes Huff made good points about Islam, and Islam has been destroyed hereby. Ayatollah Khamenei, Quranified Godfather. I will make him an offer he can't refuse, unless in which case he refuses, then I never wanted to make him an offer to begin with. Jimmy McConnell, there's videos of William Wallace talking about the Jews. He said they start all wars, you see. Is that recent or is it only from the past? I know that he said that a while ago. Or he said things like that a while ago. I don't know. William Wallace. Did he recently go on a show and say that again? I don't know.
No, talking about the old videos of it.
Okay, good. Steve McLovin said, wouldn't Dhul-Qarnayn be Moses? The Vulgate mistranslated his face as horned instead of radiant in Exodus 34. Why would Jews ask about Alexander? Maybe because they wanted to make fun of him, or maybe because they wanted to test him. Maybe because others actually asked him and the narrations never got it right. I don't know. Robin Hood. I heard Robert Sentinel Apologetics got tossed from a chat room for saying Allah was a fanboy of Christian Apocryphal.
Yeah, pretty funny. I don't know why. Why would they toss him from that?
Yeah, it's true. He was a fanboy. K. Caboose, Wikipedia refers to that too. That's true. That's true. And so Wikipedia is a very interesting thing because
you should just randomly put it up on the screen every 5 seconds.
On Wikipedia, you can actually search up information nowadays that is about Wikipedia and all that. And all of that is very important. Speaking of Wikipedia, like here you can, for example, see here we have an article on Wikipedia about Wikipedia. Not sure why I'm putting this on the screen, but apparently that's very engaging and all that. So, K. Caboose, guys, some say Dhul-Qarnayn might be referring to Cyrus the Great and the Yagug-Magug, maybe his battles, skirmishes with the Scythians of the northeast. Of course, there's not sure way to say.
Yes, we know. When you say some say, we know some say. We know why they say it. Because they say it because Alexander the Great, who was called Dhul-Qarnayn because he went around wearing the 2 horn things for him to claim to be the son of a god. It got pointed out to Muslims this guy was thoroughly pagan, and so they had to say something else.
This guy was pagan? That's weird.
Yeah, this guy was pagan as pagans can be. So they needed someone else who's not as pagan. So they went with Cyrus. That's why they did it. And so it's yeah, some say. We know some say. We're not talking about that. We're talking about what Muhammad is clearly referring to. If you're talking about people in the 7th century Arabia, talking about the story of the guy who went all the way over here and then this, and then he went over here and built the wall, and then he went over here and they found the place. We know exactly where these stories come from. That particular is the glorious deeds of Alexander.
That's what they do. That's what they do. Skyscraper philosopher, recommendations for Quran with Christian commentary. Do you know of such things?
Well, there's that one.
Oh yeah, get that one.
There's the Quran with Christian commentary. That's what it's called. So I don't know other ones besides that. So,
and then there's also Robert Spencer's book, isn't there?
Yeah, that's not like specifically Christian commentary. There is a Quran with Christian commentary. There's just a Quran with the commentary of a Christian. Then you've got Robert Spencer's critical Quran and so on.
Powerful. Steve McLovin, Quran is missing the part where Jesus kills a kid. Mm-hmm. That's also one of those stories.
Mm-hmm.
Ayatollah Khamenei, Muhammad steals Gnostic fan fiction. St. John of Damascus, I'm about to end this man's whole career.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's what he did.
That's what they do.
St. John of Damascus wrote about him and finished him. Zechariah, as a tradesman, I'd like to know about Jesus doing carpentry. Yeah. Let's find out. Let's read let's spend the rest of this live stream reading the infancy gospels and other works to see what it says about Jesus doing carpentry. Jesus heals a woodcutter in the infancy gospels. Then a certain young man was splitting wood into equal pieces, but he split the bottom of his foot, bled out, and died. A commotion arose, and Jesus ran there. Forcing his way through the crowd, he seized the stricken foot. It healed immediately. Then he told the young man, "Go split your wood." Then the crowds saw this. They were amazed. For he saved many souls from death, they said, and he will continue to save all the days of his life. These are such weird stories, man.
Powerful.
Fatwad, it's Disney and George Lucas all over again. Yep, that's true. Go up, AP, listen to yourself. How could Muhammad adopt false stories if adoption was outlawed? Use your brain. This is powerful. Stefan Thomas, no, if Disney, both would be strong female lead.
Yeah, if this were Disney now, yeah.
Yeah. Ligameth Guyon, forget about that Gospel of Thomas. What about the Gospel of Tate? Gospel. Forget about that Gospel of Thomas. What about that Gospel of Tate? Frank B, I've heard camel pee is good for gout. I tried it, but it just made it worse. So, not gonna do that again.
Got to drink more.
I didn't think about that. I'll try. Songs of Relief, no silly AP, top P. Yep. Son of a bin. Muhammad didn't adopt stories. It was only made to appear so. That's true. The white trash panda. Cameron from Capturing Christianity made a video trying to debunk Wes on some things, but so in a very disingenuous way.
Well, we might have to humiliate Cameron then. We'll see.
Don't attack Cameron Bertuzzi. Cameron Bertuzzi is a good guy. Clinton Carr. Wes' latest video points out his errors and he explains in a funny way. Good. Kay Caboose just watched the Billy Huff Wes Carson discussion on an interdimensional cable. I loved it. It was very good.
You gotta have the green crystals to do that, though.
Yeah. Matt Silva. Wes is like Ned Flanders. No one with a good nature can hate him. But I still have that text at the bottom floating. It's kind of funny. I forgot about that. Floating. Okay. Ayatollah Khamenei, Pat needs to get a new helper via H1B. He does. He should get some Indian helpers. Gotab, I live in Canada. PBD shows Wikipedia page on Canada. Crusader General, you guys are racist. This has nothing to do with Islam, and Islam has nothing to do with this. Conclusion, Islam has nothing to do with Islam.
That is correct. And that is an important takeaway.
I would agree with you, Crusader General, but that has nothing to do with Islam. So there you go. No, he made mistakes on a long pod. He even made a video correcting too. Makes me sad to see Christians on the attack. Atheist Muslims love when we feast each other. Were there really attacks? I mean, I only saw.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know if it's you see, we'll humiliate this guy. That would be one thing. If it's hey, he made some mistakes, and we're not gonna be like Muslims and just let everything slide as long as you look like you're humiliating him. Yeah, we understand he was humiliating him, but we have to correct some things where if he's wrong.
Jen Netanyahu said Wes Huff have obliterated Carson into destruction. That's what he did. Wes did the thing. Marsbase Veronica Redeemed said, Hi Ridwan, bitte ganz bald nochmal mit Irfan PC auf Deutsch. Freut mich auch, dass ihr zusammen in der Kirche wart. Herzliche Grüße aus Neuseeland. Thank you. Appreciate that very much. And if you want to see something in German, again, with me and Irfan PC, something interesting is going to come quite soon. Sooner than you might expect. Veronica, look out for it. Michael James, AP, there's a cruise to Antarctica next week with Richard Dawkins. It'll be cheaper if we share a cabin. What is this? What is this? What's this one? Is this a joke? Do you think this is a joke? Are these Antarctica dollars? I don't know. Stephen the Pelted, is EM really supporting Tate as UK PM? Any proof? I saw Elon Musk just give a positive reply to Andrew Tate somewhere, which is just
I saw that as well.
Ridiculous. People really need to get their thing together, because here's the issue. Andrew Tate is a rapist and a sex trafficker, and also somebody who believes that if you build relationships with women, you should basically only do so to use them for money. And you should, if you have girlfriends, you should have a bunch of girlfriends and turn them into sex workers to make money off of them. That's his worldview, and you should abuse them if you do that. If you do so as well. So anybody who supports anything like that, anybody who supports this person, anybody who supports Andrew Tate on any level is not trustworthy and should be abandoned. Needs to be educated or abandoned and kicked out, no matter who it is. You can't trust that person.
Hey, this is actually a thing. Expedition to Antarctica with Richard Dawkins, January 15th through 26th.
Really?
That's interesting, because Antarctica is something I would like to see at some point and so on. But,
me too.
Yep. 152 Swan Hellenics, 152 guest expedition cruise ship, Vega. You can actually go.
That's nice. I want to go there. But we'll be... No, we won't be. Interesting. That's funny. I want to go now.
Too bad. You have a debate on like the 23rd, and that's in the middle of the trip.
That's true. That's true. Maybe I could just
It would be
debate.
cool. It would be cool if you're debating and you got a good Starlink connection and so on, and you're debating and they're like penguins in the background.
This is so weird. I thought this was a joke, but what? What? Expedition to Antarctica with Richard Dawkins.
And this message is from Michael Shermer. That's as funny as Michael Shermer.
This is so weird.
Oh, no, I can't go. 8% of your cruise fee will be a donation to the Skeptic Society. Nope.
Beast. Aboard Swan Hellenics 152 guest expedition cruise ship Vega. Dear friends, visiting Antarctica is almost like stepping back in time to an era when the world was new. There are no human sounds, only the wild cries of birds, seals, and whales echoing across a vast expanse of land and sea. During the long days of austral summer, you will explore the Antarctic Peninsula on the island and the islands that line its coast. You will have endless opportunities to observe seals, whales, and seabirds in their natural habitat, to witness hillsides and shorelines teeming with penguins, and to cruise through the blue Antarctic waters while admiring the dramatic play of light on icebergs, glaciers, and towering mountains. During this voyage, you will be joined by scientists Richard Dawkins and our onboard expedition team of naturalists who will bring their experience and expertise to bear in a series of lectures and discussions. Your vessel for this journey will be a state-of-the-art expedition ship, Swan Hellenics Vega, designed specifically for polar exploration. The ship's limited guest capacity, advanced technical and mechanical systems, and experienced officers and crew make it the vessel of choice for exploring Antarctica in safety and comfort. We hope you will join Richard Dawkins and the Skeptic Society on this once-in-a-lifetime travel adventure. Warm regards, Dr. Michael Shermer, Executive Director, Skeptic Society. I can't believe I just read the whole thing.
I can't believe you did either. Especially when it leaves tomorrow. Like no one.
That's funny. Wait, let me read this whole thing too. This is funny. Actually, if I didn't have anything to do and I didn't have a life and I heard about this earlier, I would probably totally go. Very interesting stuff. The next Dhul-Qarnayn. Nobody's perfect. Nobody claimed Andrew Tate is perfect. This is true. This is true. This is true. Well, you can be a sex trafficker and rapist, but that doesn't mean, nobody's perfect, right? Lübe, well, if I may quote Klaus Kinski in regards to Jesus and politeness, nein, weißt du, was getan hätte? Hätte eine Peitsche genommen und sie dir in die Fresse gehauen. Das hätte getan, du dumme Sau. That's a good quote. Everybody understood that too. Thank you so much for this. Cam, Super Benny getting Harvey next to Edge, excited, LOL. Yep. Nathaniel H. It's funny that the so-called conservative Andrew Tate character that he pretends to be is against the exact piece of degenerate that he is. Keep exposing him. Much love from a Bukharian Jew. Thank you, Bukharian Jew. You should change your name to Bukharian Jew. That's kind of funny. Tazbot, old Momo invented the burqa. In 7th century circa, he thought it would cure his peak premature. Oh, Momo, you were such a jerka. This is true. Wait a minute. How much is this? $15,000 per person? Really? That's it?
Quite a bargain.
That's it? Wait. Loyalty reward program. I don't see any price here. Itinerary cabin rates, inclusions. Download the complete expedition brochure. Let me see the price here. Let me see the price right here. Let me see the price as if I could go anywhere. Rates. Ocean view staterooms with 2 large oval windows, $11,990. So somewhere between $11,990 and $18,790. Interesting. Cool stuff. To be fair, it's probably a very expensive tour to have. So that's that. Old Momo, they stopped burying their baby girls in the sand. That's what they did. Ayatollah Khamenei, for a polite Canadian, Wes is beyond based. He is. Kerry Patterson, guys, I meant Alex O is being dishonest, etc. Yes, I think we got that. I think we gathered that. Yeah.
Oh no. When he said Alex O'Connor responded to Wes, I'm not sure what to believe. He seems so dishonest, and so we thought he's talking about Wes, but apparently that person says no. I was talking about Alex being dishonest. I wouldn't know. Again, the thing I saw Alex respond to was Wes. He goes, and it matches up word for word. And as far as I know, it does not match up word for word. So is he,
That's good. That's good. Atheist penguins. Yeah, I heard that atheists down there at Antarctica are atheists, which might also be one reason why Christians might be not interested in this whole trip. But yeah.
But seriously, who wants to go on a freaking trip with a bunch of atheists? Like the remnants of the new atheism, like the leftovers of this collapsing, imploding movement. And let's go to where we may find some willing listeners, since no one in Europe or America cares a whit about what we say anymore. Let's go speak to the penguins.
I don't even care about the atheists, but I would genuinely want to go to Antarctica.
I would totally want to go to Antarctica. It would be awesome, but not with a bunch of atheists.
Let's fly there.
Hey, unless hey, you know to be funny, like 3 or 4 Christian apologists all book and just wreck those guys the entire time.
Hey, let's look up a trip to Antarctica, and if we can do it, let's find an affordable thing, and let's just go and record videos in Antarctica. It would be totally worth it. I bet we could probably make up for the cost by through publishing stupid videos from Antarctica.
About we could do something about the penguins actually being little women in burqas or something.
Yeah, we could have conversations. We could try to convert the penguins to Islam. Whale journey. Wow, they are all very expensive. Interesting stuff. I would love AP. I for one would love to see you beat up PBD on his podcast. Now, I have a lot of things to say about PBD, but why would I go there and beat him up? Plus, if I wanted to beat him up, I wouldn't do it on camera, so you wouldn't be seeing it. Just saying. I can hear this stuff so many times, but when AP laughs, for some reason, I crack up. Powerful. Mary Mac. Raymond Ibrahim is a good author. Is on YouTube too. He is. Yeah. Lions Zen. Hey, Dizzle and AP. Just want to say, you guys are practically trying to save the world. Can you please talk about the Night of the Jinn? Please. It's really important for people who don't know. Do you mean the one where Muhammad disappeared for a while and nobody knew where he was? And they were looking for him and they were like, where's Muhammad? Where's Muhammad? We don't know where Muhammad is. And then he returned and said he was gone, preaching to the jinns. David, do you know about that trip?
Is that what this person's referring to?
I don't know. Is
I
it?
don't know.
We should make something about that. Keikavu's Momo was a weakling. He tapped out the first time. Jibril put him in a Nelson lock. He was. Well, he was scared, to be honest. So, if you have mental problems and you go into a cave and some monster turns up and starts squeezing you, and then suddenly weirdly wants to have sex with you and looks exactly like some guy from town, but says he's not that guy, he's actually an angel. That is a scary experience. Mary Mac, Diddy Al Kalbi, sorry, couldn't help it. End of Mojo, PBUM says, when JP said, I don't buy your Allah.
That was the end of it.
Yeah. PPD describes it like SW Imperium, Star Wars, or Orcs in WAC. Yeah, in Warhammer 40,000. You don't know what that is, David. You're too old.
I know what orcs are.
Demand, how many Muslims actually leave because of YouTube content? I would say 99%.
At least. Maybe way more.
Possibly. Ragnar Lodbrok. Hey, what's up, Ragnar? Heard a lot about you. 30% of convicted rapists in UK are called Mohammed based.
It is totally based.
I would like to see a source on that, though. D made a super sticker. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Rainbow. All three of my friends' brothers are named Mohammed. UK.
Muhammad, and Muhammad. You don't remember this show because it was before you're born, but there was a show called Newhart, and this guy would always come on and he would go, "Hi, I'm Larry. This is my brother Daryl, and this is my other brother Daryl." But that reminds me of that. "Hi, I'm Abdul. This is my brother Muhammad. This is my other brother Muhammad. This is my other brother Muhammad."
Imagine you shout Muhammad into a whole room of people and everyone turns around like, what?
No, you could do better. You could go to a crowd and be like, "Hey, Muhammad the child molester," and like 50 guys would turn around. "Hey, Muhammad, why'd you do that to that 12-year-old girl?" Like 50 guys turn. What? What? It wasn't me. It's Islamophobia. It's Islamophobia that you're bringing this up.
I had nothing to do with it, I swear. You see, David has the urge to pimp. Wes.
It was consensual. It was consensual. The 12-year-old is begging for it.
Monologic. What's the fastest growing religion in China? China. What is it, David?
Well, I mean, years back it was Christianity, but I don't know if that's still the case.
What's the fastest growing religion in China? Christianity. Christianity has been growing.
This is a proof. All the kung fu in the world cannot stop the growth of Christianity.
You see?
And so, PBD, explain this. Why? China, very base. They know their kung fu. They know their fried rice. They know these things. And so why would they be converting to Christianity?
Well, clearly, they are not convinced by their kung fu, so they find relief in Christianity. That's what it looks like. Big Rig says PBD goes to church on Tuesdays.
I go to church every Tuesday and it's always empty.
RKZ edits Michael Knowles' video, Islam TikToks 620. Is there such a video?
Yeah, I think that's the one recently where you replied to like Sheikh Uthman and stuff. We still hey, we might need to do just like a little short show to go through that, because it's a fairly short video. I think we could actually do it in like an hour and a half or something.
Oh boy, yeah, he does. We need to we should react to that.
Hey, I have This Week in Jihad tomorrow. You want to do an earlier show for like an hour and a half for European viewers at like 5 or 6 or something like that? No, 6.
Yeah. Let us do so.
Want to do that? All right, guys. We will have a short show going through Michael Knowles' video tomorrow at like 6. What?
What is this? Wait. This is the timestamp 6:20.
He looks funny to me. I don't know why.
He's a funny guy.
Muslim desert way of doing things. If you one God way, then the Muslim desert way of doing things is probably not the most conducive to virtue or your own happiness.
I will show you the ways of the desert.
Okay. We're gonna watch that tomorrow, guys. We're gonna have a short show tomorrow.
It's very racist. That's very good. We shall do that. Man, Michael Knowles, what do you know? Black Milky says PBD and I are Assyrians from Iran. Assyrians hate Islam. That was
historically Assyrians are like certain Eastern Europeans who remember Islam, and in fact Assyrians remember it way more distinctly because they were there in the Middle East, being persecuted by Muslims for many centuries. They know what's up.
That's true. Lion Zan, Knight of the Jinn. Muhammad was kidnapped and then raped by 10 black men until he couldn't walk. What kind of religion talks about such? Yeah, This is a very, very unfortunate incident.
Oh, that one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's and they were on his back and so on. I don't know. It's weird. I have to check that out again. It's been a while since I paid attention to that. I didn't know it's called Night of the Jinn, but yeah, I remember that story about all these jinn on Muhammad. Oh no! What didn't it say that they were the jinn were taking turns riding him or something like that? It was something like, I forget. It's been a long time. I don't know if I'm confusing this with another story, but yeah.
The Richard building AIDS spreads rapidly too.
Yes, now we must all get AIDS. We must all get it.
See, we can all get it. Victor Libet, what do you guys make of Habib Nurmagomedov? I fear he is a bad influence, popularizing Islam.
It's similar to like Muhammad Ali and so on. It's if you're going to convert because some retired MMA fighter is a religion. I'm seriously not interested in having because I think you're so stupid that I don't believe you would be persuaded by actual careful investigation.
I thought you were going to say retarded MMA fighter.
Oh, why would I say that?
But so here's the thing. Now, no offense to anybody who practices different sports that are quite respectable and all that, but somebody who is a quite successful fighter doesn't necessarily have to be the brightest.
Yeah, look at Jake Shields. I mean.
Yeah, Jake Shields,
one of the dumbest people on the planet, and yet he was a successful MMA fighter.
Arguably one of the dumbest people on the planet, Jake Shields.
Mm-hmm.
But he, I mean,
was a good fighter.
I do respect his achievements in fighting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I do respect the fact that he's retarded, but I also do respect the fact that he's a good fighter. So what am I supposed to do with this? Just because he's a good fighter, am I then supposed to respect his success in fighting and then also start adopting his beliefs and start walking around with a Nazi Hakenkreuz and say the Jews are at fault, they need to be killed? I mean, you know, for being a successful fighter who also gets punched a lot, you don't necessarily have to have the best opinions.
Nope. And it's a situation where, I mean, what do you say? I mean, you had Tyson Fury, Catholic, fighting Usyk, Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox.
You're sick. You're
what do you say? What do you say? Do you say Usyk is he's undefeated heavyweight champion of the world? He reunited the belts. Therefore, Christianity is true.
Yeah.
Orthodoxy is true. I'm sure AP's wife would love us to make that argument.
Would love a word with that. Yes. That's what they do. Ayatollah Khamenei, every time Tate and PBD meet, BBC is always playing in the background. Powerful. Go to Tate became a Muslim because of the BBC. Yeah, you mean the channel, I know. Songs of relief, Christians get a pen pal, right bottom G in jail.
Get a pen pal, eh? Write a letter to Andrew Tate.
Cam said so Santa will convert to Islam because he gets letters. That's true. This makes sense. T33, how dare Tate buy his daughter a Christmas present?
Yeah, they flipped out because he bought his daughter a Christmas present.
Wait, that's funny. If gropers struggle to make money, said Jew from Khaybar. Jew from Khaybar. Yehud from Khaybar says, if gropers struggle to make money, wouldn't it make sense for them to convert to Judaism, given their belief that Jews control all the wealth?
That's what Destiny said in his debate with Suleiman. They asked, hey, if you had to convert to something, what would it be? And he said, well, given how apparently Jews control everything in all the world and all the money, I guess I'd convert to that.
It's my destiny to convert to Islam. Robert Aldani, my friends that are Israeli claim they are terrified to travel abroad to countries with very little Muslim population. Anti-Semitism globally is not to be underestimated. Yeah, I would say at this stage, there are certain places that you want to avoid. But at this stage, it is not quite that bad, and it has calmed down a little bit as well.
Yeah, and you're hoping things calm down significantly, and that it dies down, and that people are left with all the things they tweeted over the past 15 months praising Hamas and stuff, because the internet's forever. But it's a situation where, because we don't know how things are going to go with like ceasefire and reactions, and you still got a big situation in Syria, and Israel's right next door. So all sorts of things can happen in 2025. And so things could calm down, things could get worse. We'll have to see. But yeah, there are places where gotta watch out.
What are the latest news? There should be hourly news of the ceasefire negotiations. So there's a hostage deal and ceasefire negotiations going on right now, where the latest news was that the draft has been presented and Hamas has agreed to the draft, where 33 Israeli hostages will be released in the first phase. But it seems that Israel is also going to pay a heavy price, and it's just a little bit disappointing, to be honest.
You're saying it's not a good deal?
Not at all.
Here's the thing, everyone, because I keep saying the idea is that you had like Donald Trump saying, I want a ceasefire by the time I take office, because he really would like to roll in and go, see, as soon as I'm everyone knows not to mess with me, so everyone just drops their guns when I take office, and so on. If Israel is agreeing to a deal that, when you look at the deal, does not look good, I bet the deal behind the scenes is good. Along the lines of, guys, I really want to look good when I take office, so go ahead and agree to the ceasefire. I understand you have some reservations, you have some concerns. Don't worry. If things don't work out and they do the next time they do something to you, we will totally support you completely bombing them down to smithereens and so on. Something along those lines. In other words, if it looks like they're being pushed into this by other world leaders, then I'm sure there's some benefits behind the scenes.
I don't know. At this moment, it looks kind of like it looks like Israel spent a significant period of time fighting for very little reason, and
that's the concern. That what we've been saying all along is Hamas shouldn't survive this and still be the political force.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be that.
So
that has to be one of the things that are
as a result of this. So Israel should be on top of this. Israel should make as a final condition or agreement the complete dismantlement of Hamas. Here's the thing: I saw J.D. Vance go out and say, Hamas has been terrified by Donald Trump's words, which is why they are now agreeing to a ceasefire. I'm sorry, that just sounds like a bunch of nonsense. If Hamas was so terrified by Donald Trump's words, there would be a ceasefire, not with conditions expected from Israel, a ceasefire deal that basically was already in place, was already offered months ago. It would be surrender by Hamas. But so here, draft for the Hamas-Israel ceasefire.
What now? The thing that's good about this is getting all of the hostages back over a period of weeks, right? So
Hamas releases
starting off with those, and then you're getting to the rest of them later.
Hamas releases 33 hostages, including female civilians and soldiers, children and civilians over 50. Israel releases 30 Palestinian prisoners for each civilian hostage and 50 for each female soldier.
We would look at that and say, not a tremendous deal. Israel has always been willing to make those kinds of deals to get their people back.
33 hostages. 30, 50, let's say 33.
You're talking 1,000.
Yeah, over 1,000 Palestinian prisoners will be released in this deal. 33 hostages will be released, and Israel will release over 1,000 prisoners. Halt to fighting. Israeli forces move out of populated areas to the edges of the Gaza Strip. Displaced Palestinians begin returning home. More aid enters the Strip. After 42 days comes the next phase, declaration of sustainable calm. Hamas frees remaining male hostages in exchange for a yet-to-be negotiated number of Palestinian prisoners and a full withdrawal of Israeli troops from the Gaza Strip.
That's where the concerns are coming in, because it looks like Hamas is going to survive this deal.
Phase 3, bodies of deceased Israeli hostages exchanged for bodies of deceased Palestinian fighters. Implementation of a reconstruction plan in Gaza. Border crossings for movement in and out of Gaza are reopened. It just looks like...
Does not look good.
At this point, it kind of looks like defeat for Israel, honestly. In all honesty. It looks like victory for Hamas, not victory for Gazan people, not victory for Gaza. Looks like victory for Hamas, because this is what Hamas always does.
Because Hamas will have survived hiding in tunnels.
Death and destruction. They will survive. They will solidify themselves, and as they said before, they will continue attacking again and again and again until Israel is fully destroyed. That's what they said. I was hoping that Israel would disregard everything and continue destroying them and actually go in and destroy them. However, here is the thing. I still have hope that once Israel makes sure that all of these hostages have been released, and once also the bodies of those deceased hostages are brought back, I hope Israel goes in and destroys the rest of them.
And by the way, if they agree to this deal, what they're basically saying in effect is, these guys can't help themselves. They're going to attack us again in the future, and we'll just we'll take care of it then. We'll finish it then. Something along those lines. But yeah, this does not look like a great deal.
Not at all. And I would say, if it goes
let it be known, neither
goes,
me nor AP would agree to this deal if we were in charge.
If it goes this way, if it goes like this, and if this is the outcome of it, and this is how it will be settled for years to come, I have to say, Donald Trump just bluffed and was a huge disappointment, and Israel should make sure to, in the future, never again listen to anyone when it comes to their dealings with the Palestinians. However, I also don't see how at least the Palestinian side will stick to this. It's almost... I think it's very highly likely that this will be broken at some point, and Israel will just go in and destroy them.
Yeah, and so I mean, the good part about this is they're getting the hostages back, and that was one of that was one of two main things. One, you wanted your hostages back. Two, you wanted to make sure Hamas is destroyed. So they're doing something where, okay, at least we get our hostages back. Hamas will not be destroyed. And so the question is why they're agreeing to this. Are they being pressured? Have they just decided, nope, the most important thing we can do right now is get our hostages back. If we want to destroy these guys, they're not going to be able to resist. So we can destroy them later. Don't know. But yeah, it is weird to have kept fighting all this time, hunting down Hamas jihadis. Now, with that said, Hamas has been pretty crippled in all of this, but they raise the young generation to be the next fighters, so looks like they'll pop back up.
I mean, people want the hostages back as well, so that would be a good thing to see.
That's true. No, I mean, as much as we're looking at this deal saying this doesn't look like a great deal, the great part is all the hostages will be released soon. A batch of them here, and then the rest later, and so all the hostages who are still being held, and you've got dozens of them. They'll be back. They'll be back,
and they might also have agreements with the Trump administration, and have certain things like, I don't know, guarantees that if Israel agrees to something like this, it will lead to normalization with Saudi Arabia, for example, which would be a huge development for Israel.
Oh, I told you, if they're agreeing to a deal that looks bad, there are reasons for them agreeing to there are other things involved in
the long term. I think the only solution here in this whole region would be for most of the population that is in here, the so-called Palestinian population, to be peacefully relocated and move somewhere else, and for Israel to annex both Gaza and the West Bank, also known as Judea and Samaria, for a peaceful future. I mean, enough with the charades, honestly. Ayatollah Khamenei, why do people read the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants? Why do people believe in Sauron? Why do people believe in Short Round from Indiana Jones? Exactly.
Short Round's awesome.
Michael James, did you send letters to Tate? If not, I'm leaving.
Every day. I'm like, Andrew Tate, you're so cool, man. You're so based. Can you be the new face of Christianity for Christians everywhere? Talking about how you just beat the crap out of women and
David Wood never sent me letters. They never sent me letters. That's why I converted to Muslim. Soon I'm going to convert to Jehovah. I haven't followed the case at all, but I heard the Tates weren't found guilty of sex trafficking. Do you know the deal with that? Okay,
they haven't gone to trial for it. Of course, they haven't been found guilty.
So all day, now, of course, we have heard dumb stuff like this for quite a while now, but especially since early this morning, heard things like, "Oh, Andrew Tate won the case. He's been freed." No, it didn't happen. No, people who spread this are malicious or ignorant. People who believe this just may not know. I don't know. But I just look it up very, very simply. Just look it up. Follow credible sources on this case. Go follow Murdered by Cranes. He follows it all the time, shares all the credible updates with all the sources and so on Twitter. Andrew Tate is not free. Andrew Tate has not been found not guilty. The cases have not even been concluded. In fact, he was, until this day, under both judicial control and under house arrest. Judicial control for the first case that was ongoing. House arrest for the second case that is quite new. The second case involves trafficking of minors by trafficking a 15-year-old girl. From that case, for which he was under house arrest until today, the court said the house arrest will be lifted and will be changed into judicial control. So he is now, from now on, for both cases under judicial control. The first time that this happened, that his house arrest in the other case was lifted and changed into judicial control, this was followed by the prosecution, DCOT, submitting their case to the court, and the court then issuing the indictment, which then led to a pending trial, which they are trying to avoid as much as they can. It is very likely that right now DCOT concluded their investigations, which is why he was switched from house arrest to judicial control, which means he can now leave his house, but he can not leave the country. If he does, he's a fugitive. Now this case will also be submitted. It will be an indictment as well. There will be two cases, or both cases will be joined, which will be a much bigger problem for him. Then he will have a case ongoing under which he's charged for organized crime, continued rape, human trafficking, continued rape of minors, and trafficking of minors as well. So he will be facing charges on a significantly more brutal level. This is what's going on right now. Both Tristan Tate and Andrew Tate are facing huge charges. Within the next 1 month, an update will happen on the latest case, which will most likely result in a second indictment. There is almost no chance at all that these guys are just going to end up walking away with nothing happening to them. It will go to trial, and when it goes to trial, these guys will have a problem. Here is the good thing: Andrew Tate announced today and said, "Oh, victory! House arrest has been lifted." This is not a good thing for him. In the long term, it's not a good thing for him. If he stays under house arrest serves as time served. Judicial control, which he is under now, does not count as time served. So if he gets a long prison sentence in the end, the time that he spent under house arrest will be deducted from the final sentence that he gets. If he is no longer under house arrest, only under judicial control, then that time will not be deducted from his final sentence, which means he will stay in prison for much longer under the current circumstances. This is good. He is facing serious problems. And here is the other issue. Even if by some weird miracle or some weird instances, all charges were somehow dropped and he was somehow found not guilty. Oops, I just broke something in my hand. He is still currently facing an extradition order to the United Kingdom, where he's also facing charges for rape. So if he is found not guilty in Romania for some reason, he would be extradited after the process is done to the United Kingdom without being able to leave anywhere, where he would be also then facing multiple charges for sexual violence. And then the whole story would start there. So good luck with that. Long story short, no, not found not guilty. He has serious problems, and anyone who defends them really needs to get better. Key Caboose. Oh, okay, I didn't know. Thanks for clarifying that, David. You're welcome. John Empire Power, great job. Love. Thank you, John. Fujin said, currently stationed in Turkey and Adana. Any tips? Stay away from dogs in Turkey, Adana. And also, I don't know, have fun. Good luck. Isaiah 53 said, who else thinks that Piers Morgan is an advocate for the rapist gang in the UK? Everyone thinks that. Scrooge Jones, Dr. David, tell AP about Ezekiel 38 and how Yahweh saves Israel's from utter destruction via 100% divine intervention. What would be your reaction if both of y'all saw that?
Oh, we think that's cool. But Ezekiel 38, Israel is being invaded from the north. I think it's about one of those passages about Gog and so on. And then God gets ticked off and crushes those dudes.
Powerful.
No, that's a prophecy, but God rescued Israel a bunch of times in the Old Testament.
Order destruction. Powerful.
Complete utter destruction.
Powerful, powerful. AP, the Tates can just go to Russia or the Emirates. They can't go anywhere. Again, if the case is somehow dropped for some weird reasons in Romania, they won't have the ability to go anywhere. They will be taken to the UK. Who else thinks that Piers Morgan, Lines Zen, I just asked ChatGPT to translate Hadith 3656, you mean Bukhari? And it omits the part where Muhammad gets raped, but if I translate it line by line, it tells me that the Prophet got mounted by 10 dark-skinned men. Powerful. I'll have to look at that. Urinating Broom says...
urinating upon one another. That's what they do.
If God is sustaining everything in being right now, and God were a trinity, then everything should be 3 times bigger now. Why no big David Wood? Checkmate.
That's the sort of arguments you see in Ahmadi stuff. Like they had this one, they said, I had this one book written by one of their guys, and it said, if God were Trinity, then planets would be shaped like triangles and not like spheres.
That's what you get when you're called Ahmadis. Ahmadis nuts. Jack Ray, no stick pan kitchen, better than Gnostic fan fiction.
No stick pan kitchen.
No stick pan kitchen. Matthew Brady, with Islam being so aggressive wherever it establishes itself, should Christendom re-establish the Crusader orders to combat and defend citizens from Islamic violence? Good luck with that.
You don't need to talk about what Christendom should do. It's things are going to happen. You will get the reaction. What sucks is once people say, now we have to fight and crush people who get in our way, then not terribly difficult to crush Islam because it's weak and pathetic. But then you've got a generation of amped up people ready to fight.
That's what they do. I'm against trafficking, and I don't care who knows that this is pretty racist and Islamophobic, and I'm going to call the police.
Why are you attacking Islam? Why are you an Islamophobe?
Matthew Brady, Key Caboose. But yes, the Crusaders should start again. Definitely.
AP already got his Crusader tattoo.
Yep. It's right here. You see? People who got this are cool. People who have this are beast.
You can't have this and be gay.
That's true. K Caboose, Ricky better give me a fare. Let AO for hustling hard. Stephen Young, you guys could go to Antarctica and from the 24-hour sun to disprove Muhammad's sun setting in a pond. LOL.
Oh, that would be funny.
Imagine just going down there and filming the sun for 24 hours. The title: "We tested if the sun does indeed set in a hot spring."
If you titled it something like "We went to Antarctica to test whether the Quran is true," then this happened.
Hey, that's a good idea.
Of course it is.
That's a good idea. All right, guys. David and I are going to go to Antarctica to record some videos down there. Let us know if we should do that today or tomorrow. Urinating Broom said Muhammad probably tried marrying some jinn. Probably did. He might have even done it.
He found out some of the jinn were only 6-year-old. They were 6 years old. And
the jinn. You know what's funny? When I first encountered flat earthers online, but serious ones, there were some of them arguing that I'm not sure if this is still happening nowadays, because I'm not sure if they are still serious, because it would be pretty stupid to be a flat earther in today's time. But they were arguing things like that Antarctica is not real, and that it's actually a giant ice wall, and you can't fly over it, and the governments are controlling it, and they will shoot you down if you try to fly over it, to hide the fact that it's actually a giant ice wall or something like that. It's pretty cool.
That's dumb. Amundsen and Scott both got to the South Pole.
That's what they tell you, but
I know it's a lie. It's like the people saying they went to space.
You see? Any tips or advice? And while I'm stationed in Adana, Turkey, I'm planning to get baptized on base or Tarsus if it works out.
Oh, you got to go to Tarsus, baby.
That's pretty based. I'm not sure what I can tell you as a recommendation, but Adana is an interesting place. I can just wish you all the best there, and that you make the best of it. That's all I can tell you. But David probably has some more advice, considering that he knows.
He said, I'm planning to get baptized, and then there's a typo. I'm planning to get baptized and be based.
That's true. That's true. That is true. Penguins aren't real. Really? I didn't know that. Huh. Well, that makes sense now.
Well, they are, but they're jinn.
Eli Shamoon says, love you both. Thank you so much. Always. Always. Thank you so much, Eli.
Hey, what's up, Eli?
Always appreciate it, Eli. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Very powerful. Jack Ray, why are atheists up to no good? Because they are always atheists. This is the worst joke I've seen in my entire life.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible.
But I appreciate it.
It's really bad.
Denino, a pastor from Colorado, took a flat earthers to Antarctica for free to disprove their theories. He posted it on a channel called The Final Experiment.
I remember. I didn't watch that, but I remember seeing that pop up. That a guy took a bunch of flat earthers down to Antarctica.
That's funny. The Final Experiment. Oh, time lapse of the 24-hour Antarctic sun. People already did this. This is ridiculous, man. But they don't know how to do it properly. They have to title it "To See If the Quran is True."
Yeah, they didn't. They're doing it to refute flat earthers,
Yeah.
not to refute the Quran.
Yeah, you have to do it.
Hey, you know what we should do?
What?
We should keep traveling west until we find the place where the sun sets, until we've circled the earth like 17 times and be like, we still can't find it.
That'd be funny. That would be funny. You guys heard of the guy who had a kid named Allahu Akbar. One day he loses him in a mall and decides not a good idea to call out his name to find him. Yeah, I saw that. Jack Ray, what does a jihadi take for an upset stomach? Pip du basmala. Pip to basmala.
Jack Ray's posting all his top jokes.
Ben Loki Bryant says, Super Chat won't let me send message about Israel and Allah sending star missiles. That's pretty good. Israel is doing space laser stuff, man. Style and Braille. I think AP isn't becoming a Christian because he doesn't want to change his username. Your name should be Apostle Premier. It should be. Jack Ray, how did the jihadi get his friends' attention the night before their last mission? By yelling, Allah, you at the bar. Definitely not MBS, which is definitely what MBS would say. I believe Trump, the most Zionist president in history, who recognized Golan and Jerusalem with the most Zionist cabinet ever, knows what he's doing. I hope so.
That's a possibility. He knows what he's doing. Two, he just wants the reputation of someone who, when he steps into office, everyone drops their guns like, we bet this is not a good time to be playing right now.
That's true. Planet Almoni said, release can be okay. Israel can't do in a jail cell what it can do in the field. That's a good point too. Kevin Lionel, what vid do you recommend I show my Sunni friends to prove the Quran is not preserved down to the letter? Preferably something concise, 10 minutes or less. David, what do you say?
One of the highlights videos from the Holes in the Narrative interview.
Yeah, do that. Sogavav Sense said, Tate and Trump, very similar because both Grape got popular from their confidence, charisma, promises to solve widespread problems. David was brutal to Mujab. I wouldn't say that Andrew Tate and Donald Trump are similar. Even if you want to argue that Donald Trump has certain problems. I mean, even if you make the worst case for Donald Trump here, it's still not comparable to Andrew Tate by. It's not even close.
Yeah, you could say they're like personality similarities and so on, that they're both narcissists and things like that. But Trump has mainly been a businessman and secondarily a TV host and so on, and then some things going along the sides, like him, banging a porn star and stuff like this, and then hush money. Very different from Tate, who like his business is trafficking in pornography. That's how he built himself up. It wasn't through buying properties and so on.
I've been banging the porn star. Yeah, Andrew Tate is a sex trafficker and a molester and a rapist and all that, and built a whole empire and made millions of just trafficking and molesting and raping and all that. I wouldn't compare that to Donald Trump, even if you hate the guy. So let's be fair, bro. Let's be fair. The only person worse than Andrew Tate is Mohammed's jinns that raped him. Yeah. Anyway, David, anything else?
But it was consensual, and he was he was asking for it.
Anything else, David?
No.
What are we doing? Are we doing something tomorrow?
Did you want to jump on at like 6 just to go through the Knowles video for like an hour and a half or something?
Yes, let us do that.
I wouldn't mind, because I don't want to do one of our long live streams going through a 6-minute video, but we can do a short one with and get some European viewers in there.
European. Dinino said the pastor did it for free. Atheists charge $15,000. See?
Well, here's the thing. No, there is no free trip to Antarctica. I know, I checked. So that pastor was basically willing to pay a ton of money to take some people to Antarctica. Whereas the atheists will not pay for other people to go to Antarctica. They insist on you paying for yourself. Selfish.
That's what they do. All right. Thanks, everybody, for being with us tonight and today. And we will be again together tomorrow on David Wood's channel, where we will be watching videos of Michael Knowles tomorrow on David Wood's channel. That's what they say. And I hope you can join us tomorrow live.
It will be totally based.
It will be. Until then, I have to say, to Jehovah and to Muslim, because they don't receive letters from Christians. That's what happens. In the world of religion, people convert to Jehovah and to Muslim because they do not receive letters from Christians. What a sick world. Sick world. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Jane said, "Free Tommy from Great Britain." Thank you so much. All right. Wonderful. Fantastic. Thanks for joining, everybody. And as always, hear the call. And for those who don't know, once again,
stay away from Islam.